Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to a fantastic episode of T3PO Live. I am your host, VashSky. Thank you so much for joining us on this amazing Thanksgiving Day. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Paul, I see you right there. Happy Thanksgiving as I drive home from the happiest place to work in attempts to make the happiest place happy. Interesting. Very interesting indeed, Paul. Well, we are gracious. All of us are gracious for your service. Actually, let's go ahead and bring on the panel right now. Tell you just how thankful we all are. We have, let's see right here, we have Nolan Thunder. We have Ron E. Bradley from Follow the Bradley's Fun. We have also, too, joining us for an amazing time right here, Theme Park Wizard. Everybody, what is going on? Don't quite know what happened to Erica. She'll be back. But hello, everybody. How are y'all doing?
Howdy.
Hello.
Happy Thanksgiving. What's up, Wizard, Nolan, and WDW VashSky?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody is hyped for this show. Even the turkeys are hyped for this show right now.
Absolutely. And somebody also hyped as well. Erica, American Rap. Hello there.
Guten Tag.
Oh, I like your Epic Universe mug.
Thank you. I have a new store at City Walk, and I just got it today. Universal
Nice.
City Walk.
Hollywood City Walk.
I
That's
didn't
indeed.
even know. Oh yeah, that's right.
Go
There is a Hollywood City Walk. Hey, is the bowling alley still there at City Walk Hollywood?
Oh, I wish that's Buca de Pepo now, but that's going to be closing.
Oh.
Soon. They're out of business.
Wow. I long time ago I went. Gosh, it has to be more than 25 years ago. There was a big old like it wasn't Splitsville. It was some other big
It was
bowling
the
alley type
Jillian's.
thing. That's it. Yeah, Jillian.
Mm-hmm.
Man, gosh, I'm old. I am aging myself.
I used to go there as a kid. That was great.
Oh, that's very, very cool.
Well,
Yeah,
a place I
I
used to go as well was Universal Studios Hollywood, which still go to now. But that's going to take us to our first story. And Theme Park Wizard is on here for a specific reason. We're going to talk about what is going on at this amazing park in Southern California right here. You can see we have the map of Universal Studios Hollywood right here. You can see City Walk actually to, the right of your screen. You can see the entrance right here. And there's a lot of development in this specific area. Wizard, do you want to go ahead and take us through what you contributed to, actually, in terms of this theme park story?
Oh, yeah. So 1 year ago, Universal, on May 2nd, 2023, actually, Universal filed plans for a hotel in for this resort park. And while it was delayed, it finally is moving along. And thanks to Parks fans, there's some permits earlier this week for a demo of the iFly building over there in City Walk and some security stuff. And thanks to Zach from Parks Fans, he shared the lovely images of the site plans that he found for me before he posted it on his little article there. And we kind of did a little collaboration on this particular article because we're kind of timing the drops. And today he realized something that I've been knowing about for months and seen for months, but the official site plan for the said hotel. And look at that, it's a little hook structure. Now, unfortunately, in these site plans, there's not the renderings because I can't wait for you guys to see those. But you can just imagine what the hotel will look like. This will be an 11-story hotel with 500 rooms. The pool towards the back. This is currently a parking lot that the one you saw. It's used for like buses and oversized vehicles. But as of November 18th, those oversized vehicles can't park there anymore due to new parking policy. Now, this hotel is kind of gonna hook. Kind of enclose this entrance. It's a free for all. This security area is right here, now. But now that will be demolished and moved to City Walk Disneyland style, where the City Walk will be in the security bubble, unlike where now it is not. So that'd be good because I've seen people making knives in the City Walk, so that won't be happening anymore. But this hotel will be on the level of like the Grand Helios Hotel. It'll be like a Spanish architecture type of vibe potentially going on there, which will be super cool. And it'll be 11 stories at the center, but like 8 stories and 5 stories, it'll taper down, but it'll create a nice little immersive crevice so you won't see the outside world from the plaza there. they're gonna renovate the whole plaza, maybe even take away the ticket booths. I was just thinking about that today. I don't know if they really need them anymore. But the globe's gonna move up about 20 feet to the north. It's been broken, so it should be fixed and be a brand new globe. And it's gonna be massive, massive stuff, especially with the security updates, which we finally first saw plans today of. There'll be 3 new security hubs. Vash, show them.
Yes, absolutely. We have some more renderings going along with this right here. The security hubs, new for Universal Studios Hollywood. This is what Wizard was talking about when he said you could bring previously knives into City Walk. That will no longer be the case because they'll be centered around the parking structures themselves, or at least roughly. Go ahead and take us through it here, Wizard.
Yeah, so currently the security City Walk is in that little tiny awning structure to the left where the globe is, and anyone can walk around and do whatever they want. But now they're going to transfer to 3 central hubs. Now, they kind of tested this when during COVID, and you had to have the temperature checks and stuff. They had the security in the parking garage, which was actually very easy. It was very nice. I was like, man, I was so sad that went away. So I'm glad that I'm sure they used that test and figured out how to do it permanently, because now it looks like we're going to have 3 hubs, just multiple parking garages. Over to the east hub, to the left, is the Frankenstein parking garage, and that's where some certain parking types went. I know Mr. Vash parked himself there when we met at Universal. So you come up from escalators and you'll be coming from the escalators and elevators, and you're coming on the east hub there. And then there's a central hub where this is all the preferred parking, the front gate parking. This is by the NBC Sports Grill and Johnny Rockets. That'll be another hub. And then the West Hub is relating to that permit, the iFly permit. There's a demo for building 6520, which relates to the iFly structure. This West Hub is very interesting because this West Hub not only will be the permanent security thing, but rumor has it, we just talked about the whole main plaza renovation there. So there's a West Hub. Why that front entrance is getting renovated could be the temporary entrance into the theme park itself, because it actually connects to Wizarding World of Harry Potter just behind that IMAX theater, which it sticks out to the left of that circle there. The West Hub right now is a rideshare area down south. There's City Walk has a lot of little gaps. I'm sure they'll close them up. And the West, if you're parking ET or Curious Shores, which are the rightmost structures there, they'll reroute you through a new path coming up from the West Hub. If you're parking the front gate, Central Hub, and Frankenstein, the East Hub. And then I imagine hotel will have its, I don't know about the hotel parking, to be honest. I can't speak on that. They might just use some of the other parking garages. But the West Hub also could be the site for a second more value hotel, or the entrance to a more Cabana Bay style hotel, where they call it the H slot, which is usually where a couple of Halloween Horror Nights houses are. It's just a parking lot, though. It's to the north of the out of frame on the Curious Shores parking lot. So the West Hub will be something to watch, because that could have multiple uses over the next several years. But much better security hub area to keep City Walk safer, but also more convenient, because right now it gets very tight. In fact, I was there today. It's very busy. It's Thanksgiving. So there's a whole bunch of people in that whole area. It's not a lot of room to walk. When it's raining, that whole area floods. So a lot of problems will be fixed with these new security areas than this current very bad security area. Well, it's not terrible. Better than Disney's security area, but still not the greatest.
Yeah, it's been an issue for some time. To give people a little land here, Universal Studios Hollywood is adjacent to the actual Hollywood. Not quite within that realm there. It's kind of within the 30-mile zone. That's what they call it in this part of Southern California. It's just outside of Hollywood. It's actually in its own city, Universal City, which is very interesting and actually relates to the story as well. But this is all part of what Universal Studios Hollywood has called Project 515, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
This whole expansion project to really build this park out. Universal Studios Hollywood has been landlocked for quite some time in terms of how much it can actually grow, because it's right adjacent to their operating studio. Now you're going to get a myriad of projects that will expand the footprint of this park even further in the Southern California market. And with that comes direct revenue streams from not one, but 2 hotels. So all of that really is what makes up this specific project and what Wizard is referring to when he refers to the security checkpoints and so forth. This is all to build up the infrastructure for this specific park in the lead up definitely towards some big high profile events, right? 2027, 2028. Wizard?
And
Wanna give us a lowdown?
2026 got the World Cup, got the 2027 Super Bowl, and the Olympics. Now, watch the lower lot. Maybe next year there's that. Right now they're extending the retaining wall and doing some infrastructure work to the hillside for that area, the other side of the coaster. But
Right.
that is just phase one for some massive developments there. A potential lower lot expansion could be opening in 2028. But we'll wait for permits officially to see this particular area here. It'll be the Mummy and those 4 sound stages. Only one person told me the Mummy's last year is 2025, but they always say the Mummy's last year is a certain year, and then it always survives. So we'll see. But
It's a very different mummy, right? That's a very different mummy than the Florida mummy, right?
Yes, it's more. Ours is more coaster like, less dark ride like, and it's much smaller overall.
Yes.
But yeah, this hillside is sliding, so they're gonna move it back about 100 feet, and then they're gonna put a bigger retaining wall, and then that'll be done by March. And then later next year, as soon as the coaster opens, the studio tour could be relocated here. I've heard due to safety issues, the studio tour can't operate because it'll be too close to the coaster in its current route. So the coaster can't open, I've heard, until the studio tour is open, because see, that's not even there's even closer tracks to go literally right to the green fence when you go past the escalator there. So could be a safety issue. Could not be it, but I've heard from multiple people, so I'm pretty sure it's true, but we'll have to wait and see again until permits. But yeah, it sets the stage for one big massive lower lot expansion that could open in 2028 or 2029, and then that lines up with the Simpsons closing in 2027 to get that out of there for that expansion, maybe like 2030, and then we'll continue on forward from there. So pretty good timeline of events coming that the hotels will support.
Does Hollywood, Universal Studios Hollywood, overlook is it the San Fernando Valley?
Yes, the beautiful. It's my home, San Fernando Valley. I'm here right now.
Yeah, you can actually see right here if we go to Google Maps. This is really interesting because it's like it's a 2-story theme park, which is really weird. But you can see this kind of hill structure, this hill, which are the Hollywood Hills, technically. And they run down here, which is where you get the Starway, or these bank of escalators that take you from the first level to the lower lot right here. And this is kind of the area that everybody's most interested in. You can see in the foreground, that's the Mummy attraction. Back here, this is a Jurassic World built into the hill as well. And then these 4 sound stages is what Wizard was referring to right here. So if you relocate these sound stages, potentially you have a really open area to fill out the lower lot with more theme park related attractions. That's also where Nintendo recently set up shop. So a lot of people are speculating, are we getting an expansion to Nintendo itself? Perhaps. Are we getting more Harry Potter? Maybe. But it all kind of starts with this hillside project.
And it's interesting because, and this is just totally speculation, or my thoughts, not even speculation, just a theory. No, Warner Brothers is right down the street. You can see it right there, right behind the golf course, right there.
Correct.
And
this is Warner Brothers.
With the changing of administrations, they're a little bit less regulatory, because you can say on like mergers and stuff, right? So maybe next year when the new administration takes place, maybe Comcast takes another shot at buying Warner Brothers, because they're pretty cheap. And now if that happens, the whole area, Universal's property is 416 acres. So if they somehow bought Warner Brothers, right, and then just kind of use their sound stages, then they don't really need any sound stages, and then could use the whole area for theme park. Again, just a theory or potential of what could happen. So we'll have to see what happens next year if they make because this golf course, the owners of this golf course, they try to buy it many times, but they just won't sell. So, instead of trying to buy the golf course, hey, if you somehow acquire Warner Brothers and just use their sound stages for production, you don't need any sound stages on your lot. You can have a whole Epic Universe sized park right here, or actually a little bigger than that, but universe.
Potentially.
That is.
I mean, you're looking at right now the studio backlot for Universal. You can see how much real estate there actually is. But again, those are active production facilities. You'd want to maintain those. Now, what Wizard is pointing out here is a plan to maybe purchase nearby Warner Brothers studio. Obviously, that would go along with all those assets, but one of those assets being the studio lot itself and their amazing range of IP. It's kind of funny because just further from here is
the mouse.
Disney Studios. Yes, the mouse. So
Is that Burbank?
Yeah.
yep, that's Burbank right over there. So it's all well within proximity right here, but definitely Universal Studios Hollywood is the focus. And yeah, they're setting up for major events in the future right here. If Universal were to actually build on-site hotels like a Helios West, would any of you be interested in staying at that and visiting this park?
I would. This is making me miss my time when I lived in Las Vegas. I would go down there all the time, right? So, and to give you an idea, the last time I was at Universal Hollywood, Backdraft was still there. I'm assuming Backdraft is gone now.
Yeah.
But it was but it's taking me back in my memory, and I'm getting very excited about. Like, I was actually there one year. And I could have gone to it, but I chose not to for the Rose Parade. I was there. I happened to be there, kind of stuck on a layover, not a layover, but my flight was delayed because there was a big snowstorm back east, and I happened to be in Los Angeles, and so I couldn't go back home, and I was there on the day of the Rose Parade, and I don't know what I ended up doing. I think I ended up going to the Tonight Show that night and seeing Jay Leno and a whole bunch of other things, but like this is all very exciting for me because it makes me want so badly to go back out and see all of the California parks, including the ones that I personally missed, which was the Six Flags Magic Mountain Park out there, and Knott's Berry Farm. I haven't been to either one of those parks. I want to go to those. I want to go to Universal. I want to go to the Disney stuff out there, and see the apparently very letting down Marvel Avengers Campus.
Erica, you interested in seeing Universal Studios Hollywood?
Yeah. Well, I've never been to California, so it's been on the bucket list for years. I know it's always money, you know.
Yeah.
I hear they know how to party.
Oh yeah.
No party like a day.
Yeah,
Wait a minute.
We don't know. Yeah, I said when we finally make this trip to go to Knott's Berry and Disney and studios in California, I'm like, we're gonna have to meet up with some of our TPP family who are on that side of the US.
Absolutely.
Because we don't know our way around there. I think that's another thing we're really intimidated. The traffic and everything.
The traffic.
On top of each other. It's a city, you know, and we're not city people like at all. So it's very intimidating, honestly. So we need help. We would need someone to like navigate us around.
It's a big area, and you have to. If you're out there, you really have to go see Santa Monica and Malibu. I mean,
oh my gosh,
it's fine.
They're in your traffic.
It's not all the time, every day.
Strings.
This is for Thanksgiving, but you can see
red and green.
Just how insane
definitely is.
There's
I must say it is because I used to drive that all the time. It's just about like that all the time. The lights make it more intimidating than it really is, but when you're on the ground, that whole thing takes from maybe like 30 or 40 minutes. It's a long time for probably you guys, but it's like normal for us.
That's like pretty lots.
Also, if you
come
guys,
on down, Wizard and I, we can show you the ropes. Ain't no problem.
If you come on down, make sure to book your vacation package too.
That road on the top is moving quite fast. What is that, an exit?
Oh, that's just the street.
Wizard is a travel agent as well. That's true.
I have so many questions, and I know it would totally derail the stream. But Theme Park Wizard, you're a travel agent too?
Yes, well, I'm training to become one, but by the time you come out here, really, by the time Thanksgiving is or Christmas comes, I should be an official travel agent, travel advisor with
That's so cool. Okay.
East winds. Woohoo! So book with
I
me, no
will
matter where
definitely
you
keep that in
go.
mind.
We have Wizard for a limited time here, so I want to get his thoughts on our
Aw.
next topic of the day, and that is, well, it has to do with Universal, but not Universal Studios Hollywood. This time around, it has to do with Universal Studios Orlando or Universal Orlando Resort. I'm sure you all are very familiar with this attraction right here, this Rip Ride Rocket attraction. Yes. It was a different time in Universal's history right here. Initially they wanted a B&M coaster, very similar to maybe the Hulk or the Dueling Dragons coasters that they had at Islands of Adventure. But unfortunately, B&M wasn't available, nor was Intamin. So they settled for Mauer AG, I believe is what they're
Mauer,
called.
yeah. It's like a
Well,
German thing. Yeah,
Oh, that's
Mauer,
one
yeah.
I haven't heard of. I was gonna guess Vekoma, but I'm like,
Yeah, no,
I don't
not-
like a Vekoma either.
You wish it was Vekoma. No. Unfortunately, it was a little lesser known outfit and lesser known probably for a reason. But Universal was
Yeah.
attempting to install this coaster in order to balance out the crowds between this specific park, this being Universal Studios Florida, and Islands of Adventure, because Islands of Adventure was getting the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And that would open in 2010. I don't believe Rip Ride Rocket made it. I think it made it to 2011, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, they have had nothing but problems with this coaster since its opening, and so that's led to a lot of rumor and speculation, especially right now, that coaster might be going away. This article from Annie Wilson rumored Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket would close permanently in 2025. This was a couple of months ago. Well,
I'm sorry.
Well,
I
now
thought
we
that
have-
that ride was destroyed in the Sharknado.
yes, exactly, right? It might have been better for everybody involved. I'm harsh on this attraction for a reason. We'll get into it. But Katie Francis here. Rumor Intamin multi-launch roller coaster replacing Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. Why is this very relevant? Well, not just because this was published like 4 days ago, but Alicia Stella had this posted on her Twitter account. This right here. A notice of commencement was recently filed for work at Universal Studios Florida that shows roller coaster manufacturer Intamin as the contractor. This is separate from the one previously filed for maintenance building expansion happening at Hagrid's in the Islands of Adventure. You can see right there, Intamin is listed. Intamin has been heavily speculated to be the manufacturer that will be making a coaster to replace Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. And why is Intamin highly speculated? Well, they're building a coaster right now in Universal Studios, just not Florida, but Hollywood, as we recently went over. And Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift is the speculated coaster to replace Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. Wizard, I'll let you have the first take on this because I know you've got to go very, very soon. What information do you know?
Well, yes, it seems like whatchamacallit, Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket will be closing in, rumor has it, in January, for the demolition of that coaster. Then Fast and Furious Orlando Drift will be zooming in there, the same type of controlled spinning that this is. And the entrance will probably be, I don't know, relocated somewhere. So it could have been, some thought maybe it would be a Minions family coaster, but that was an option. But then they went with Fast and Furious Orlando Drift, meaning the coolest thing that besides the studio tour, the coolest thing that Hollywood will have will soon be replicated, unfortunately. But it's okay because we have the studio tour and that can't be replicated. But yeah, Orlando Drift will open probably in like 2026 or 27 because unlike ours, this is very hilly. Orlando's, it's pretty flat. They just have to demolish the coaster, then build another one. I don't expect it to be themed too much. Like this one's not going to be themed too much. And I will probably go pretty fast. I don't know the layout or anything else about it, but I do know that it's likely that expect work to start pretty quickly on this one because everyone's going to Epic. They need something for people to come to their original two parks. So it should be pretty cool. Hopefully we'll have some again, this one's pretty unique too because Orlando's can't go under and over an escalator, so at least we have
Yeah.
that going for us. And with that, by the way, ours is gonna go 73 miles per hour. Theirs could go maybe 70 or 80 miles per hour. But what you call it? And with that, I must go to my Thanksgiving family's dinner. I know they have 2 of them, so I gotta get going. But thank you so much for having me on, and I'll be on as soon as possible. And I'll see you, Dr. Dre, next week.
Yes, I
Eat
will
up.
be
Happy Thanksgiving.
I'll be in the
Great
California
Thanksgiving,
area.
dude.
at that
Happy
time.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much, Wizard.
Wizard.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, good sir. Thank you so
Bye.
much for joining us. You can find a Theme Park Wizard at Theme Park Wizard on YouTube and Park Wizard on Twitter or X. So definitely check him out. He's got a lot of great information, a lot of he does amazing permit work for not only Universal Studios Hollywood but also Disneyland as well. So definitely check him out. He is worth showing up for sure. Thank you so much, Wizard. We will see you later. Getting back to our panel of guests here, though, are you interested in seeing Rip Red Rocket replaced? Maybe perhaps Fast and Furious, or is this?
Yes.
After the last time I wrote it, which wasn't very long ago, I can say yes, I'd love to see it get replaced because let me tell you, I was scared the entire ride. This wasn't very long ago, and my harness wasn't on right. And I was scared for my freaking life because it didn't feel like it didn't feel like it was locked in place. And I'm like grabbing on to like holding on for dear life, making sure like am I strong enough to maybe hold on if I flip? I'm like going 60 miles an hour or whatever. It's a scary enough ride as it is. It may not have built by B&M, but I'm telling you, if you eat the wrong thing before this, you will definitely be forced to have a BM afterwards.
No.
It will right out of you because or it'll come the other way. Let me tell you, this thing is.
Man.
The rip. Let me tell you, the rip is very accurate. You will rip it after this.
We do have a story coming up, actually, talking about a coaster in which somebody was able to get out of it. We have the whole thing. It's a crazy story. It actually happened in Arizona. So definitely stay tuned for that. Erica, on that.
Jonas is calling. Answer immediately.
Whoa. Looks like the boss is calling me. As insane as that information is there, Ron. Erica, are you were squeamish there for a second. You a big fan of coasters? Maybe this one.
So I am a huge fan of them in terms of looking at them, how they're engineered, put together. I think they're pieces of art. I can't ride a lot of them because I do have a fear of most of them. I've actually woken up in sweats and I've had nightmares of me where my harness has come undone on coasters and I'm like hanging on while I'm being, I don't know why it's weird.
Because it feels like it can happen. That's why.
I don't know. I'll go on. B&M seems to be my go-to, especially their inverts. If it's a launch coaster, I've only just now gotten to where I can handle Cheetah Hunt over at Busch Gardens. You still can't pay me to go on Terran, and that's an Intamin. And a lot of the Intamin coasters, I really, really have a just fundamental problem with being harnessed in just from your waist down. If I'm not harnessed in from my shoulders, so I got something to grip like this, I'm not comfortable. I feel like I'm going to flip out of my seat. I don't like that sensation, like I'm going to flip out of my seat in any capacity. So
you don't want to ride Mako
because they look so much fun is the thing, but I cannot get past the how you're secured, and because I don't see myself being secured in the seats. Now this coaster, isn't this the manufacturer also makes Smiler over at Alton Towers in the UK?
Oh, they actually might. Let me go ahead and double check on that.
Because they have had issues with that coaster since it has been built. Yeah,
Isn't that the
I
same
hear it.
ride where
Smiler
someone
for
had to
sure.
lose a leg after that ride?
Yeah.
I
That was
don't
a
know.
horrible incident. Yeah, there
Ooh,
were
not the first
amputations.
I heard of that one, but I
took
know
place.
they've had issues. It breaks down a lot. And that was when I was willing to try because I like loops. I like corkscrews and but once I heard from it was Theme Park Worldwide because we've been following them for years. I mean years. Um I now I understand if they're the same company, then yeah, it's probably time for this one to go. If it's made by the same people, we can go with Intamin, who's a little bit more trusted, bigger name.
Yeah, a little bit. Intamin has had its problems in the past. Not really recently though, which is quite nice. Gerstlauer was the producer of
Yeah.
the Smiler there. Yeah, that's a really bad incident. But this has had incidents too. In fact, this vertical launch system that you're seeing right here, this vertical lift, you can see it's 9 degrees. The trains there in this photo, you can see they're cresting the lift hill there. That has gotten stuck, I believe, multiple times. And
Yeah, no, I
there's
can't.
not a great way to unstick them. In fact, I believe the last time it happened, it was a multi-hours rescue operation, all detailed, by the way, so well in El Toro Orion's Problematic Coaster series video. This one specifically talking about Rip Ride Rocket itself. It's 48 minutes, but trust me, folks, you'll get through it pretty quick. He produces some excellent content. Nolan, your history with this ride, are you looking forward to maybe its replacement?
Well, I want to get at least one chance to try this thing out because my past 2 Universal trips, I actually have never been on this thing. You think with being a bit of a coaster guy, like I'd be all over trying this ride once, but even last time I was at Universal for Halloween Horror Nights, like it just was not a priority. It was a pretty full day, and I had an opportunity to ride at the very end, but I was dead tired. I'm like, it's honestly, even if I missed out of it on it before because at the time, it was rumored that it was going to be taken down. And I was like, I'm okay. I've been on better roller coasters here. And honestly, I mean, it's got a very interesting design, but compared to a lot of other coasters out there and other attractions at Universal, it does very little to wow you, at least in my opinion. If it does get replaced, I really hope they choose and elect not to go with the Fast and Furious theming, because at Orlando you already got the Fast and the Furious ride, which kind of gives you a fix of that. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to maybe they could follow maybe a similar template, but maybe do like a different kind of theming, kind of like Tower of Terror is, compared to the one in California, compared to the one in Florida. I think it'd be cool if they could kind of dig into their IP a bit, be like, hey, what can we do here? We know Intamin is a very competent roller coaster manufacturer. Well, not as far as maintenance issues, but as far as safety, we know they're pretty good. I don't think we'll see Ron flinging out of the seat.
Uptime is definitely an issue.
So I think we'll be okay with that. I'll be very curious to see what happens. I'll try to see if I can get one more chance to ride it when Epic Universe opens here next year. I would love an opportunity, but I think with all the safety concerns, the lackluster reception, I feel like this ride has kind of dug its own grave. And it's kind of a shame because, I mean, this came out at the same time as Harry Potter, which was a phenomenon for theme parks. So I don't know what happened here.
It was cool when it first came out, but
Yeah.
it is, the ride experience of it is, it's pretty good when it works. It's just scary as heck. Definitely, if you go on it, try to go on it at night. It's another one of those rides that's just like way cooler at night. But I like the way, and you don't see it in this part of it. You had to go like further down to the end. I kind of like the way that it wraps through the New York cityscape area that they have. So I hope that whatever they replace it with does something similar, and I can see why they would be going with Fast and Furious if they do that, because that kind of makes sense that they'll that they would have it. Theming wise, it actually makes better sense than this, going through the, like, having cars or something that looks like that on a roller coaster ripping through the New York cityscape area would be cool.
Yeah, here I can show you a photo of what that looks like. Right. Well, not at that size. I can't. Give me a second. Sorry.
Then we got a magnifying glass.
Yeah, exactly. Do we have do we have some zoom lenses or something? There you go. This being somebody's thumbnail, but you can kind of see the effect that Ron was describing right there. What's interesting about this? Well, a couple things. One, we talk about uptime. Uptime for Rip Ride Rockit, it's one of the worst at Universal Studios. Even, I mean, it's on par with Hagrid in terms of the amount of uptime that this thing has. I think even less now, because Hagrid's, I think, has gotten a lot more consistent since it initially opened. This is always constantly down. Part of that is due to the wind that takes it down. Other things have to do with the nonstop load-unload system that they have implemented here. Also, too, when it began, it was, I think, 5 tracks per genre. So the idea for Rip Ride Rockit is you get to pick the music that you want for this specific coaster. And you have like a screen that's embedded into your lap rest, and you can pick from the songs on that screen. Well, they've reduced it from 5 per genre now to just like 1 song per genre, which is really kind of sad. So it's just all these things have made this a very problematic coaster, as El Toro Ryan beautifully points out. And I think it is time. The maintenance costs for this, I've heard, are exorbitant. They're very, very high, especially given how the throughput of a coaster like this, and the satisfaction surveys aren't the highest. It's a little rough around the edges
It's
nowadays.
right there in the thumbnail. Bad coaster review.
Yes.
That's true.
That's a good point.
Well, the thing, yeah, the load sucks. The way it's very cumbersome, and it's not smooth, and it's not like in, out, gone. It almost seems like it sometimes takes 5 minutes and I know it doesn't take that long, but it just seems like when you're there, if it's taking 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, it just seems like a long time load in and load out. So
yeah, it's just
I feel like it's going to be pretty soon here, living up to its name, because it's Rip Ride Rockit. So R.I.P. Ride Rockit.
Yes.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. for sure. One last note about this Fast and Furious coaster, by the way, that I wanted to mention. Wizard did mention it. Controlled span. Imagine Guardians of the Galaxy,
That's what I was thinking of.
multi-launch, right? By Intamin with inversions. That's kind of what you're getting here with Fast and Furious.
Whoa.
It's very, very cool. Very ambitious. It's tech that Intamin's never really done before. So we're all very much anticipating how this will work in Universal Studios Hollywood. I think Universal knows, though, they have a real winner on their hands, which is why it might be coming to a theme park near you, if you're in Florida, that is. So pretty cool stuff. I guess it's about time, though, ladies and gentlemen, to get to our lead story of the day. That being, we got to talk about it right here.
No, we don't.
This broke on
No, we
Friday.
No.
No. We got to talk about it. We have to. We got to.
Pain, stop.
It's time to start the music. It's time to light the lights. We don't want them ever to go out on the Muppet Show tonight. Come on.
Hey, that's
Don't
pretty
make me
good, Ron.
cry.
I love that.
Behold, this
We
is
have to
Kermit
talk
the Frog
about it.
reporting live from Bob Iger is the biggest villain in the world.
It's terrible. It's
Him
absolutely
and
terrible.
Josh are literally those snooty business dudes who were in like the 2009 Muppet movie, with Jim Parsons in it, where they're like, let's turn it into an oil rink. Yes, that ought to work.
Well, before we get into the conversation of what's going to happen to it, I think this is a great time to go over the kind of the past, present, and future for the Muppets and Muppet Vision 3D as it relates to Disney's Hollywood Studios. Muppet Vision 3D is a really interesting attraction in Disney lore, because obviously it's an outgrowth of a partnership between Disney and Jim Henson Company, and his works being the Muppets. This is actually before Disney even acquired the Muppets outright. So it really was this really kind of unique blend of these ideas. Remember, at this time, Michael Eisner was very much like, hey, the magic at Disney isn't as bright as it has been in prior years. So let's go ahead and fuse creative talent throughout our ranks. And that's why the collaboration with George Lucas happened for Star Tours, for example. That would occur 2 years before this attraction would actually open in 1989. That being a Star Tours in 1987 at Disneyland. So Muppet Vision 3D was really unique in that way because it wasn't just the Imagineers working on it, and yes, it was the last project that Jim Henson contributed to before he ultimately passed away. Again, never a formal arrangement having been really documented. There was no contract for the Muppets. It was kind of like a handshake deal, which was really interesting and led to further complications for the Muppets, but definitely for its presence in Disney's Hollywood Studios. You'll note, Ron, I'm sure you'll know this, there were a myriad of Muppet-related ideas that Disney wanted to incorporate into Disney's Hollywood Studios, then Disney's MGM Studios, back in the day when Jim Henson was still alive. Do you
Muppet
remember any of
Takeover.
those?
I none of those come to mind. I just this particular, well, that whole area is Muppets. It's not just, you've got Pizza Rizzo back there, you've got the store. It's what's sad right now is how much of it they have already closed down, and it's not so much of the lack of popularity of the Muppets. It's just that what happened when you used to go back to that area, it was a whole thoroughfare to get to Lights, Motors, Action, and you had the streets of New York and streets of San Francisco that was all adjacent. So back at that time, that whole area would get busy, and that's why the Muppets Theater was so important, because when crowds were already there, this would help draw some of those crowds to that space, and it was massively popular. It's not so much that it's unpopular, it's just that people are passing it to get straight to Galaxy's Edge because that's where they're going when they're going back there. So people have a tendency to I want to see the new thing. The new thing is Galaxy's Edge. So what are they doing? They're passing up the Muppet Theater, which, by the way, when it exits now, there's nothing there because they closed down the shop. I mean, it's still physically there, but you're exiting towards Mama Melrose, Italian restaurant, Pizza Rizzo, and then you've got this whole beautiful, gorgeous Muppets themed gift shop that's shuttered right now, and it's got cool props from the old Muppet shows and all that kind of stuff in it. You've got they're using a space right now for a Santa Claus meet and greet back there, but in the olden days you would actually exit, and you'd go to the right, you'd have a character meet and greet, sometimes Lightning McQueen. There was actually another theater down, further down, and then to the right from that would be Lights, Motors, Action. And all of that got cleared out for Galaxy's Edge. And they did a kind of a weird job so that they could also have the entrance to Galaxy's Edge from what the hotel was going to be, which of course is closed down. So, like half of what Galaxy's Edge was supposed to be, which was the space cruiser, brought in, that was supposed to bring in all kinds of extra money, right? Complete failure on Disney's part. So, taking this and trying to destroy something great and build something else when you've got a really bad record of all the new stuff going in, it's not a good idea. Like right now, the record for all the new stuff is horrible. Galaxy's Edge the Space Cruiser was a complete failure, and Galaxy's Edge is not that busy.
It's really, it really is fascinating to think about why you would ever do this, because Muppets is kind of a historical piece for a lot of people. Obviously, its connection to Jim Henson is it's well documented. Even here, you can see Jim Henson actually working on the production itself. And by the way, I think we have a Spaceship Ears in the chat. My father was a production designer. Seeing these pictures brings me back as I was on set for its filming.
Wow.
Thank you for
Wow.
Very
That
cool.
is super
Spaceship
cool.
That's
Ears.
awesome. I've
Spaceship
never
Ears, if you ever
seen-
want to come on any of our channels, just let me know. I'd love to get your insights. Erica, please.
Oh, I've never seen these behind the scenes photos. It's fascinating. I'm just like,
This is the last thing that
why would
Henson
you wanna
worked on.
get rid of this. I know.
Because they
It
want to
is-
replace something that was put with a lot of actual, genuine love and passion with something that was made from a spreadsheet.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there is, it is really weird. It's very, very weird that Disney, who was well known for so many years as being the most creative company out there when it came to new stuff, creative stuff, our artistic vision and dreams, and really heartwarming family material. And like I said the other day, they have exchanged creative storytellers for the unfortunate Stories Matter groups, which is it's not anything about stories mattering. That's the worst part about the Stories Matter group, is that that's not what it's about. It's one of those things that, well, you've got this name to virtue signal, but the name is really a lie for what they actually do. Look at that shot. That's so awesome.
That was at MGM Studios, wasn't it?
That was at Hollywood.
Yeah.
That was at Disney MGM
Yeah.
Studios, now Disney's Hollywood Studios. I believe those handprints are still there in front of.
Yeah, we walk by them when we go to visit. We'll walk through, and
It's in front of
And
I mean the fake
one I like
Grauman's Chinese.
by.
right, the Grauman's Chinese
You know-
Theater, now the facade for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Please, Erica.
Disney's just gotten into this. They're reacting instead of being rational and methodical and thoughtful in what can we do to really compete with our competitor. So instead of just kind of slowing down, kind of like what Universal did, they got real quiet and they had this massive project, in the workings that nobody knew about. And then all of a sudden we just hear these rumors and it's like, whoa, wait a second. And, unfortunately, Disney is just, I feel like they're just reacting emotionally, and it's a disaster at every turn, and everything they're coming up with and putting out there is like, it's sloppy and it shows.
I don't even think
you
they
would
know
think-
what they're doing. I'm
No,
still
they
upset.
evidently don't.
Well, why
numbers
do
don't
they
lie.
want to go forward with projects in Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom when they didn't even finish what they were supposed to do in Epcot? So
I'll tell you why they're doing
Yeah, I
this.
was looking forward to the original concept art of what they were going to do to Epcot. It looked really nice. My only hang up was the Mary Poppins area. It was the attraction, not the area. I love that they were going to bring Cherry Tree Lane back there to the UK Pavilion. I wasn't a fan of what they were going to put in for the Mary Poppins ride. I'm kind of glad that got shelved.
what, you don't want more teacups?
No, I'm sorry. I have a huge problem with flat rides in theme parks. On a very rare occasion, it works. But if you get into this cheap habit of that's all you're going to do, then you're not a theme park anymore. You're an amusement park. Yeah, that I was looking forward to that, except they needed to go back to the drawing board on the actual attraction.
Yes.
This shows what happens when you build a company, and this is what's dooming a lot of companies across the country, really, is when you build when your group of people in charge are built with people who do not understand entertainment. They're just going to make decisions, that are super reactionary. It's like, oh, they're building a park. Well, let's greenlight 3 different projects. And I'm going to be real with you. Just because you've been with a company for 10, 15 years, however much, doesn't mean you have that experience you need to make a great theme park. You can be at a cook at a job for 10 years. But if you were a very lackluster cook, and if you refuse to do things that were actually going to make you better, that doesn't mean you're the most qualified for the job. The people behind a lot of these OG projects, it doesn't really matter. It's irrelevant how long they've been there. It's about, them taking time to learn from past mistakes, taking time to adapt, keep up with the trends, understand what the people in these theme parks want. And the people we have doing it now, they're just not landing. They're not nailing the concept art. They're not hitting good time periods for production. How long did it take for Tron to finally get to Tomorrowland? I don't mean to say this in a mean way, but I'm saying in a legit way. It's incompetence. They haven't gotten the proper amount of training or experience. And I believe part of the reason of that is 2 big things. One, I think it goes back to ego. It's been more about what can we do to maintain for Bob Iger, for example, to maintain that comfy chair he's currently in. And the second is for the people lower on the totem pole. They've driven out all these Imagineers who took the time to, walk so the future could run. When you kick out experience, these people, it's not even their fault if they don't know what to do because they never even had a chance to learn. And now the people that are suffering, it's not just the company, but all the people who love these attractions, love the work of, say, Jim Henson or Walt Disney. Now you're getting a lackluster product and there's no one else to blame but those at the top because of selfishness.
Yeah, and you got
it's
the old
really
good
weird.
talent that used to be there, and that talent's not being passed down. So the new talent, they're fresh out of college or wherever they're picking up these, kids, and they're not getting pushback creative, it's all textbook smart, but they're not getting the hands-on, mentoring that they could be getting from the Imagineers that really made Disney, that gave Disney the Disney difference. Well, now they've all gone either to Universal or they've gone independent somewhere else in the theme park industry.
Exactly. And
Disney's
why did
loss.
they leave? Because they didn't want them around, or B, they didn't make their jobs good enough to
They were
stick around
forced out.
for how many years?
A lot
And
of them were
if-
forced out. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you if you had like a job where, you actually treated your cast members and developers and all that with like respect, gave them recognition for what they did, then you'd have these eager amount of people coming out of these colleges and stuff like, hey, I want to be working at this place for the next 30 years of my life, as opposed to you're there 2 years. Oh, let's see if I can go on to something better. And what loses is you flush Disney down the drain in the process. And it's so sad.
It is very, very sad because I think Disney has a lot of great history that they can, mine to an endless degree and make money from, but they would rather destroy for the relevant today. And it's like, what are you
And
doing?
they don't even know what's relevant today. They're so out of touch with their audience. And
That's
we're
true.
telling them
Very
what
out
we
of
want. They're just being stupid.
They
I
also, it
mean-
seems like everything they're trying to do now, and this is where the failure is. You can see the failure with the Star Wars hotel, right? They're trying to figure out ways they can throw their audience coming to the parks to get them to empty their wallets the most, to spend the most cash. So now they've monetized lightning lanes, right? And which to me, I'll be honest with you, it's disgusting. It's disgusting because if it had never been done and there was no fast pass before, totally different scenario. But when you coax your audience for 2.5 decades of this upgraded experience where you got to choose some rides that you could kind of get a faster queue on for free as part of your ticket price. It's integrated and it actually makes your company different than the others that are charging for fast pass. And guess what you're doing that whole time? You're saying, oh, we're the Disney difference. In other words, we're saying we're better than those other companies because we're not going to charge you for this. Well, you cannot set that precedent and then start charging for something without becoming worse than the people you were making fun of before for doing that. Because that's exactly like that. You just like, it's horrible, right? You can't do that. So and now the company wants to figure out ways, what can we make a lightning lane for that people will want to buy this premier pass and spend this extra $350 per person per day after they've already spent $200 on a ticket per person per day and $800 on a hotel room. It's just, it's getting so ridiculous. And
yes,
I don't think that they're realizing that the more they do this, the more true Disney fans they're going to lose. And when you lose those fans, you lose those fans' dollars, Disney. So listen up. If you want money, stop trying to get money and start trying to please fans.
Yeah.
Well, if they would go back to creative, and the money will come. When you put something out that good. People will pay for it. But you can't go over it. They've become like this, almost like a circus sideshow now. You know, they're a complete joke.
I don't disagree with you, and I try to get into the headspace of these executives and wonder and figure out why they're doing the things that they're doing. I think for the Muppets particular case, I mean, we know the monetization issue where they have all this Disney Plus debt that they have to pay back and so forth, and obviously they've poured all their capital into doing streaming and everything like that, so they have to absorb everything out of the parks, right? So I understand that mindset. When it comes to the Muppets in particular, it's interesting because the Muppets weren't fully acquired by the Walt Disney Company until 2004. Well, that was a very tumultuous time in the company's history, as Michael Eisner was attempting to be ousted by multiple different parties, but specifically the board and Roy Disney himself with the Save Disney campaign. Also, too, Comcast at this time put in a $49 billion bid to buy Disney outright. So that was an interesting little period right there. And a lot of speculation surrounds this specific acquisition by the Walt Disney Company to acquire the Muppets, because a lot of people thought, is this a way to stave off Comcast from actually buying out the company outright? And so when Bob Iger takes the CEO mantle in 2005, I think the Muppets encompassed, I think what he feels is like the Michael Eisner era. It's like, well, that's my predecessor's thing. That's not necessarily my thing. And I think that's why a lot of emphasis has been placed on the Muppets going forward, especially under the Iger regime, because it wasn't a project that he really staked his claim in. And you can kind of see that in the company's activities when it comes to like the promotion of Marvel, the promotion of Pixar, the promotion of Star Wars. They're doing that because, well, those are Iger's acquisitions, and he's most proud of those. So those are the things that we have to champion. And
what was also brainchild of Michael Eisner was Splash Mountain, and we saw how he treated that one.
That's a good point. Yes, that's very
Iger
true.
Iger really wants to create a legacy. He needs to pull his head out of his rear end and realize that company is not his or Eisner's, never was. It's Walt's. Walt Disney. You want to be a legacy? You need to somehow, some way figure out to be an extension of who Walt was.
I think Iger ruined his legacy the day he came back.
So you're there to carry a torch that was already lit, and this man is not a true fan of Walt Elias Disney.
No, I remember recently.
Definitely not.
And he just saw money in the Disney name and wanted to create something selfish out of it. And he has just completely destroyed what this company was built on from the beginning. I mean, take it back to Snow White, for crying out loud. From the very, very beginning. I mean, like, is he going to jack around with, Mickey Mouse next?
Well, you remember a few months ago during
the Reddish cartoons, right? Go ahead, Nolan.
Do you remember a few months ago? It was during the huge summit thing where we got the "Hey Bob" moment from Elon Musk. When Bob Iger was actually on the stage prior, he was asked by the interviewer. I can't remember the interviewer's name, but they're like, "So what do you think Walt would do in this situation?" He's like, "Oh, I asked myself that question many times." I'm like, "Really? Tell me one time you thought about what would Walt Disney do when you're writing your books. Please give me a few paragraphs about how you think about how Walt Disney would approach this. You don't have to agree. You don't have to be his clone. You don't have to believe in everything he believed in. But please show me something that shows his drive, his passion, his inspiration."
Well,
a world like this.
You're misunderstanding what he meant, Nolan. He said absolutely. I think, of course, I think about what Walt would have done, and I try and do exactly the opposite. That's clearly what. Because I'm telling you, Iger it's so funny because Iger had this amazing reputation, right? Everybody loved Iger because the Marvel was going really, really well. And Star Wars people didn't know yet exactly how off a cliff that was going to fall prior to like 2019, 2020. So when Iger left, he left for him at what would have been a good time. And I'm telling you, he should have stayed gone. for his own sake, he should have stayed gone, because then Chapek could have properly taken the fall for nothing that Chapek actually had control over, unfortunately. So the idea that, we'll bring Bob Iger back in to fix it, and it's pretty clear that he's fixed nothing, because everything that was implemented under Chapek was actually his. He didn't even give up his golden shower or his office or any of that stuff. We all know now, and if he would have stayed gone, we might not have known. We would have just had that book that he put out that everybody read, that also, he's the greatest thing ever. I love Bob Iger. He's the best things in sliced bread. And I'm like, no, to me, Bob Iger's problem is he comes from, did he come from ABC, right? He was an ABC executive first.
Yep.
Okay. So he does not have an understanding of the parks and what makes the parks great. He's not really a creative thinker, like when it comes to Imagineering or any of that stuff. That's not his jam, right? So he had to think of what is he going to do to create a legacy for himself, and his legacy was going to be, I'm going to make acquisitions, because I'm not creative, so I will pick creative things and I'll buy the heck out of them. And that's what he thought was going to happen. And then the biggest flub was, unfortunately, Fox. Even though we got the only thing that we've gotten from Fox with Marvel was finally Deadpool and Wolverine. Nothing else has really happened yet. Maybe it will, but that's all we've gotten so far. And everything else, Fox, I'm like, when they purchased Fox, I thought this is a perfect time to redo the Great Movie Ride, because the Great Movie Ride was aging and needed a revamp to become a better version of the Great Movie Ride. And now you own Fox. So my gosh, the stuff that you could put in and redo the whole ride, but still have it be the Great Movie Ride. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway could have gone where Star Wars Launch Bay is, really easily, by the way. And they didn't do that. It's living here, being 15 minutes away, having been a cast member during a lot of that period of time that junk was going on, and seeing it from my own eyes and seeing what was going on within the company and within the parks, and how philosophies were changing. And I when I walked into work and I saw that a fifth key had been added and they called it inclusion, I was like, what the? And you can't talk about it. Like, you can't have an opinion if you're a cast member. It's immediate ousting if you have an opinion. I will tell you, I know so many cast members walking on eggshells. I know I have friends that are cast members who have certain roles in which they're allowed to give up their shifts, and they give up as many shifts as they can so that they can just have the privilege of taking their kids to the park for free, and they go work somewhere else. True story. But they don't like working for the company. Wow. I won't mention any names, but I know there's lots of them. It's not just one. And it's just scary. That's not the company you want to be. You want to be a company that everybody truly loves. Now you're a company that, you still have a percentage of people still shilling for. And then you have the rest of us that are like, we're not blind. We see what's going on.
Perfectly said. And if there's one more thing I can say on this thing, I know this has been kind of the Bob Iger roasting hour, but really, we're saying it because I want them to see this as fans, like true fans, are upset about this. There is so much disappointment and sadness right now about this Muppets news. And if anything, I don't want the reactions to be as like, oh, those toxic fans, or, oh, like they're so privileged to have Disney World to begin with. I want them to see this as a warning, because we're warning what's going to happen. It's not going to go over huge, and we don't want them to completely fail as a company. I would love if they could take these words to heart. And I'm not going to act like I know everything there is to know about theme parks, but I'll tell you, I wish he would do things with his position to get the people who do, because I feel like this is a disaster waiting to happen, and there's still time to course correct, but I just don't think I think the whole thing Ron just said about walking on eggshells, if you don't listen to input, you're going to eventually walk off a cliff, and it's disappointing.
It is, and that's the hard part of it. Is like literally, I would say for decades I was a Disney mega fan, and that's what's hard. It's heartbreaking to see this happen to something you love, and millions of people worldwide, billions of people worldwide love it, and it is just heartbreaking because it could go a different direction, and God willing, I hope it does. It could.
We
Going
have
back to
some.
the Muppet, I wanted
Please,
to touch
Erica,
on the
please.
Muppets again.
Yep.
It's Disney's own fault why the characters have not been popular and why they've kind of been a dying brand. They haven't done anything with them. They haven't brought anything new, no TV shows, movies. They have done
They tried.
nothing with them. So this attitude, because I've seen comments online, oh, well, it's an attraction that, hardly anybody goes on and they're kind of outdated. And it's like, well, wait a second now, because Sesame Street's still popular. Sesame Street, kids are still, they know who the characters are and they're buying merch and they're familiar with Sesame Street going into SeaWorld. So there's so a precedence has been set there. So you can't use that argument. Disney has not done anything with these to be so that these characters can be passed on to the next generation. And it's up to parents to just pull out the old movies and shows to pass it down to their kids and grandkids. But I mean, and then you're going to stick it in a roller coaster, which the family unit can't ride together. That's a very specific niche, of people. Kids can't ride that, without requirements of parents, depending on phobias or health restrictions, they all can't, not everybody can ride coasters. So it's just beyond my comprehension, going back to how, aside from Walt, but now they're taking Jim Henson out, and it's like, okay, well, you're just taking out all these historical people in the film industry and in animation, and it's just like I'm having a hard time now because Vash, you had mentioned how you try to put yourself into the
Executive shoes.
mindset of the executives, and I'm at a loss now because I try to do the same thing. And I'm like, okay, wait a second. What is it you're actually trying to do? Because now, Walt's been nixed. You're slowly chipping away all his stuff, Jim Henson. And I don't know. I'm starting to get really numb to all of this because it's numbing now.
There is
Why
one
do they treat
somebody who might know something about this as well. He's been waiting for the back for a little bit. So let me go ahead and get him on the panel. Joshua Harris. How's it going?
Joshua.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me just
What is
fine?
up, sir?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nice to
Welcome.
meet you.
Okay,
Can you hear
hello.
just
So sorry, I can't do video right now. But
you're
but
fine.
yeah. So I couldn't help but come on when Bash invited me. But I mean, like whenever we start talking about my old friend Bob Iger, I just would love to chime in at any particular point.
Of course.
Because well, I mean, just as you were saying, Erica, and by the way, I love all the points that you're making and everything, especially the whole entire thing about flat rides are for amusement parks, not for theme parks, which is an important distinction because, there's an additional price tag. There's a whole different dynamic that you have associated with that. And really they are trying to convert all of the theme parks into amusement parks, and you can see that. I can see that on my Twitter feed all the time with tons of haters that said, look, okay, this is just a kiddie park, this is just an amusement park. I'm like, no, it was never meant to be an amusement park. This is supposed to be a theme park, very closely related to cinema, but it has a completely different dynamic associated with it. So one of the things that I was listening to and everything in regards to Iger and trying to get into his mindset, and forgive me if this I don't mean this to sound like an Alex Jones thing, but the thing that you have to understand is that Bob Iger hates Walt Disney. he actually does. He intentionally and consciously hates Walt Disney. He hates everything that has ever come before him, mostly because of his vastly inept nature. He is a one-trick pony. He can only acquire successful brands, and usually at an enormous premium, which hurts the company. And by purchasing, I mean with Walt Disney's wallet. And then he runs them into the ground, and then he goes on to the next one. I mean, he was already starting to do that when he bought Star Wars, because he was already draining out all of the creative and social capital for things like Pixar and everything, which I can debate against that as well, which most people find that a gas, but anything that is that way. Yeah, he really just in his entire career. You can look at what's happened to Walt Disney World, especially. It's happened at lesser extent to other parks and resorts that. He's slowly removed everything that has anything to do with Michael Eisner, and he really doesn't care for Walt Disney. Walt Disney was his first kill, and then he just went progressively down the line with that. I mean, and really, it doesn't. This isn't a conspiracy theory. If you want to know how Bob Iger thinks, and how Bob Iger feels about this company and about its legacy, all you need to do is listen to what he actually says in his own biography. I mean, this is the guy that proudly mentions very early on in the entire book that he proudly never has worn a Disney tie. Now, why would the chief executive of a company say proudly that he has never donned one of their IPs on there? It's that's just one example. The whole entire thing that he did to George Lucas actually it just breaks your heart when you see what he's actually done to it, because he actually stole the company from George Lucas. George did not want to go through with the purchase. He was very he was very hesitant about it. He got railroaded into it until there was a point of no return. And Bob Iger says proudly in his book about how he was able to finagle and finesse the thing to where he couldn't get out, because if he would have canceled the deal, he would have had to pay $500 million to get out of it because of the corporate arrangements. George Lucas could not afford that at that time. So when you see that horrible photo of them signing the documents and everything, I know that it might come as a shock to people today, but George Lucas actually does have smiling muscles. He just hasn't used them for 7 or 8 years. So when you see him doing that, and you see that dead, vacant look on his face, and that look of severe depression that he's signing it over to the quote light white slavers, that's real. That's exactly what's happening with him. So. Yeah, that look at that face. That is the face of a distressed player.
Joshua didn't also.
I have not seen him smile in years. Ever since any image I have seen of George Lucas, he just seems like he's there, but he's not there. Like a part of his soul's like missing, and it's something I picked on over the years, but I could never connect the dots. I never knew he was backed into a corner like that. I never knew that it was like that. Now it makes sense.
And Joshua, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but my understanding is that George Lucas wanted to make sure Kathleen Kennedy in there because she was supposed to be advocating for him. And am Correct. I right in thinking she stabbed him in the back?
Yeah, she stabbed him in the back, but it's one of those really tricky blame games because I like the whole entire blame game that I constantly tell people I don't like to do is that which Bob was worse, was it Bob Chapek or Bob Iger? I'm like, they're both bad, they're both underneath the same guy though. So that's the thing though, you have to realize that that Iger is where the buck stops. So it could have been. There are some people that I know that have worked directly with Kathleen Kennedy, and they are still her defenders, and they still pin almost every one of her decisions onto Iger. So it's a little bit of a cloud of war type of thing. but yeah, I mean, like this is the woman that was one of the executive producers on E.T. She had gotten coffee for George Lucas and Steven Spielberg for decades. You know, very very trustworthy lieutenant in their little army. So why would she want to portray him in this way? Well, we can go into a whole discussion where, you know, we talk about social dynamics and gender politics right now, but everyone pretty much is already very well aware of that, as there's thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of commentary on that on YouTube right now already. But still, yeah, that's the reason why he wanted her in there, because he thought that she would be able to support him. And then you can look at the whole entire timeline that happens after the purchase. So I didn't think it was going to talk this much about Star Wars, but anyway, George Lucas came up with a treatment on how to deal with 7, 8, and 9 that most people think that is really off the wall, because he was going to be doing something regarding, and this is more of a Lauren Connor thing, so he would probably scream at me if I'm not going to get the details right, but whatever. It was about the wills, the WHILLS. Where they were supposed to, where it was going to be going into a microcosmic realm of Star Wars lore relating to the actual mechanics of the Force. And I'm of the opinion that it should have stopped at Episode 6. I mean, that was George Lucas's whole entire thing. And I should also say this too, that I am not necessarily a Star Wars fan. I'm not necessarily an Indiana Jones fan. I am a George Lucas fan. I'm a hardcore George Lucas fan. And when I used to tell that to people when I went to like social functions and everything, they would say, "I am so sorry for you, man." Yeah, so am I. So he had these wonderful treatments for it, and then she just decided to go ahead and abandon them, because they wanted to do this whole entire thing where they wanted to shift the market from a boy brand into a girl brand, which, by the way, Star Wars was never a boy brand. It was never a girl brand. It's just a brand that people have universal appeal for. This was designed by George anyway, with his adaptations of Joseph Campbell's The Hero of a Thousand Faces and everything. He wanted a universality that transcended gender. So when Kathleen Kennedy split that, then you split the whole entire thing in two, and then of course they had no plan and everything. So that's just one thing, though. That's just one thing. If I could tell you also, like, you know, like most people think, okay, well I don't agree with the Marvel acquisition. I definitely don't agree with the Fox one. I have problems with Star Wars. This is other people telling me this. I'm like, but you have to admit that the Pixar was the great one. Pixar was actually one of the worst acquisitions for Disney. For one thing, it wasn't going to go through because Michael Eisner wanted to, and I know this from conversations with people, because I'm 1 degree separated from Michael Eisner in like 3 or 4 different directions. One person who used to be an executive with a company, which shall remain nameless at this point, he said that what Michael Eisner's actual objective was with Pixar. Keep in mind that Michael Eisner is the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. This is important. This is how acquisitions are supposed to work. He wanted to take over Pixar and take all of its team members and everything, and he wanted to graft them into Walt Disney Animation. Now, you might have a problem with that, saying it's just like, oh, but the beloved Pixar and their whole entire ecosystem and how wonderful that is and everything else. Well, that's not the way that acquisitions are supposed to work. Acquisitions are supposed to work in a way that you have the parent company acquires the child company, and the child company becomes subservient in every single way to the parent company. So if it was Michael Eisner that was doing the deal on Pixar, or anyone else that actually had loyalty to their own company, Pixar would be no more now. But that would be fine, because you would do all the wonderful stuff over in the Disney brand, which is where it's supposed to be. Well, what Iger did was the complete opposite from that. On the day of signing, the Walt Disney Company is somewhat Puritan in its practices, so they would never do certain activities inside the office and everything else with it. So on the day of the Pixar signing, what they decided to do is they decided to honor the Pixar tradition of having a Friday afternoon kegger. And they decided to do that inside of Team Disney so that they could convey that the Walt Disney Company was now going to be subservient to Pixar. And this was the first of his many acquisitions. And what happened after that is that as part of that deal, and the reason why Michael Eisner did not go through the merger was because as part of the merger, what Steve Jobs and Ed Catmull wanted is they wanted to kill Walt Disney Animation. That was part of the agreement, which they would never go to, which Michael Eisner would never kill Walt Disney Animation for the acquisition of any upstart. And Iger was perfectly willing to do so. And this tells you the entire spectrum about how the Walt Disney Company's trajectory has went way off the rails now. Now I make a very hard line distinction, and I retweet this constantly. Just like now it should be known as the Iger Corporation. It's not the Walt Disney Company, unfortunately. So, sorry, I've been talking a lot, but go ahead.
No, but it's fascinating, and you've got so much like a wealth of history, like historic knowledge. So my question is like, why would anybody want to kill Disney Animation? I mean, for God's sakes, that's how the whole thing got built before the theme parks were even a thing. That's just, it's so asinine to me. Like, why?
Okay. So here's part of the answer for that. Here's part of the answer for it is that when ABC Capital Cities was acquired by the Walt Disney Company by Eisner, they automatically didn't like each other. Now, this is a little bit more of a supposition for me, but I assume that with the politics and the persuasion of Bob Iger, which is almost identical to The View, his whole entire perception of Disney is a very myopic, extraordinarily inaccurate way in which to view the company. I think he also consciously knows that it's a deeply conservative company that has socially progressive tendencies. Like Walt Disney was, the Walt Disney Studio was one of the most diverse studios in Hollywood in the 1930s and 40s. It hired more minorities. It had women who were in charge of entire departments and everything with that aspect. But nevertheless, very conservative. Iger can't stand that. He also can't stand to be subservient to Michael Eisner. So he starts plotting his coup against him, and he does this with Zenda Muka, and they start doing this isolation tactic, which if you've ever seen the movie, I believe it came out in 1950, called All About Eve. He does an All About Eve style takeover of the entire company, where he basically goes in and he says to Michael, it's just like, oh no, I can take care of that. Oh no, I can take care of this too. Oh no, I can take care of that too for you. So he isolates Michael. This is after Frank Wells dies, of course, which was basically Michael Eisner's bodyguard. Because people say that, like, okay, oh yeah, well, it was actually Wells that was the creative one, and it was Michael. No. Michael was always the Walt Disney in this. He was the second coming of Walt Disney. He just was. But he lost his Roy. So in this timeline, it's the actual opposite thing, where Roy dies instead of Walt dies. And as a result of that, Smiley over here on the right decides to go ahead and start a coup against him. And the most audacious thing about it is that he does it so that he can gain political clout, so that he can eventually become the Democratic nominee for president, which never happened because his timing was always off on that, and he really didn't understand how the politics work in Washington for that. It was just a goal that he happened to have for that he wanted to take the cachet of being the Walt Disney Company CEO, and he wanted to parlay that into a presidential nomination. And if you look at everything that happened before 2019, when everyone was praising him to the hilt, except me, I'm the first person to detract from him since 2005. He wanted to take that. I mean, you can imagine. It's just like, oh yeah, now the entire nation, America, is going to be Disney. So of course he would be a natural shoe-in for that. In fact, they probably should have ran him in 2016. He probably would have beat Trump. But the timing didn't work on that. So that's one of the things that just like absolutely floors me about Iger. So I'm like, he's doing this for reasons which defy explanation. Just like so why is it that you hate this company so much? And it's just petty squabbles for him. But then again, he's a small-minded weatherman, so I suppose I shouldn't expect some sort of like a very profound reason why he's doing all of the destruction that he is.
It's absolutely wild to see where the company's gone under Bob Iger's leadership here. It has been very tumultuous, to say the least, especially in the recent period. But even before, there were signs, and I think Joshua points out very well here that there was an idea to essentially take the Pixar team, right, the Pixar creative and brain trust, and graft that over the creative output for the entire Walt Disney Company itself. And unfortunately, I suppose fortunately they didn't actually end up getting rid of Disney Animation, and they did, I think, carve out a couple of really great hits for the studio. But then all that kind of came crashing down once the central cog in that was removed, and that was John Lasseter, and that really, that's kind of why we're seeing the creative output diminish so much from the Walt Disney Company, is because once you have those pillars in place, it's a lot very difficult to replace them, but almost impossible to remove them and expect the machine to go on. Joshua, is that kind of a roughly where we stand right now?
Well, I mean, I would say one correction on that is that they were successful, that they did kill Walt Disney Animation. They killed 2D animation very shortly after that. That's true. So that's an entire medium in and of itself. I mean, you're looking at a lot of people really don't understand the dynamics of it. It's not just the technique that you're using when you're using 2D as opposed to CG animation. It's also the technique. It's like the whole entire thing where people say the medium is the message. In this case, the limitations of 2D actually dictate the way in which it's structured, and it also explains the reason why, like for example, Walt Disney Studios only ever did one sequel feature animated film, and that was The Rescuers Down Under. So they would always want to create a new story, and it wasn't just the whole entire Walt philosophy of you can't top pigs with pigs. But also that you have to reanimate everything. Well, when you're dealing with CG is a puppeting process. So you just bring out the puppets again, and then you just perform a new show. Now, granted, they do new effects and they do new settings, but it's already a pre-made thing, and that means also that it's a lot quicker to do these processes, which means that you don't have to put as much thought and intention into it. When we really are enamored with things like Dumbo and Pinocchio and and Cinderella, one of the things that makes them so successful is that the 2D animation is such an arduous process that everything has to be scrutinized at almost every single conceivable level in the universe, like not just the character mode, not just the way that the character moves, but also the motivations, also the script writing. Everything else has to proceed at a much slower pace than you would actually do with CG. And the fact that we lost that, that was one of the biggest travesties of all when he actually did that. The interesting thing about that too is, because I used to, I worked for the company for 20 years, and most of my foundations were done at the then Disney MGM Studios. The weird part about it is that because one of the common threads that people like to say about this is just like, well, they came up with Atlantis and they came out with Treasure Planet and then all these other things were there, so they were already on the downs anyway, so they might as well just go ahead and kill the entire medium. Well, for one thing, most of the time when they were bringing out things like Atlantis, which I love, and Treasure Planet and those types of things, they were usually going up against extraordinarily stiff competition, and the Walt Disney Studios weren't really being good stewards of those properties, because when Harry Potter comes out, you don't put out a Disney film. Okay, that's what you don't do.
That's
So
a very good
that,
point.
True.
yeah, so that's just a common sense thing with that. But also the interesting thing about it is that, again, because I'm come from a Florida centric mentality about this, is that of those of that experimental era, which was just post to the Renaissance era, all of the films that made money came from the Florida studio. Everything that didn't make money, through sometimes their fault, but most of the time not their fault, of their own, everything that didn't make money came from the Burbank studio. And the Burbank studio is the one that got sheltered, and they got retrained onto the CG environments, and everyone that made money in Florida got shafted.
Jeez. Joshua, I have a question. Is from your point of view, after Iger, is there any hope? Is there any hope that anybody could take the reins of this company and actually appreciate Walt and turn this company back to a Walt company, not just a Disney in name only, if you will? Is there any hope whatsoever? Or, I mean, or does it get purchased? Or what happens? What happens when Iger's gone?
Okay, well, when Iger is gone, I already have my tweets lined up. I already am ready to go on exactly what I'm going to say in response to him. I have it. It's amazing. It's beautiful. I will just give you one clue: Betty Davis. That's your only clue. But also, one of the things that I say is that, okay, so here's what I can see that there are going to be two things that could happen with this scenario. One thing is that you have a new CEO that comes in. Wait a minute. I should probably re-clarify this. Okay, so here's probably how this is going to go. Bob Iger has created a massive amorphous monster in his Iger Corporation. No one on earth is qualified or capable enough to wrangle this many properties, this many real estate holdings, this many merchandising, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's extraordinarily complicated. There's no way that anyone could actually do that. And also, one of the big problems of this is that there are so many business units, and they have such a diverse range of products that if you wanted to get involved with something like, you know, in the Eisner era with synergy, which is one of the things that they always try to do, everything is going to run in conflict with everything else. You know, it's just like, oh, wait, we can't release that animated film right now because Marvel is going to do this over here, and Marvel can't do this right now because Star Wars is going to do it. And what are we saying when we're looking at this versus that? So the next CEO, I think, and I hope, is going to be a person that, and I've said this for at least 10 years now, what didn't happen in 1984 needs to happen now. And what happened in 1984 was that before the Bass Brothers and various others, and Roy E. Disney came in to save the company by injecting Michael Eisner and Frank Wells in, what they were going to do is they were going to split off the company into several different business units, and they were just going to operate independently. I feel like that actually does need to happen now. You do need to separate off these companies. So you do need to have them be completely separated from each other. Now, a lot of people say, okay, but what about the IPs in the park? Like, well, we had licensing agreements beforehand, so you can go back to doing licensing agreements again. And here's the interesting part about this, and this is just a little bit of a fantasy for me, but still it would be wonderful. Okay, so if you have these companies that separate off, then the licensing requirements become much more complex and much more expensive for you to make a Star Wars attraction than it is to make a unique attraction. So then you can go back to the original way that Imagineering ran, and you can have Imagineering actually create their own attractions using their own medium. This is one of the big problems that I have with IP, and I could go off for like 3 or 4 hours. Seriously, I can, about how bad this whole entire IP infusion is inside the parks. But if you had this, if you had them separated, then it would become enormously difficult for them to actually maintain that there. You would eventually have licensing agreements that fell out. You would have to retrofit attractions, or you would have to put in something that's a little bit more relevant. Because is one thing that I was saying, and I was saying this to fellow channel contributor Kiss My Grits a couple of days ago. I'm like, there is nothing that they're creating today that they can completely bulldoze tomorrow and people would cry over. Like, how much would you really be upset if Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway was closed tomorrow? You would be like, oh, anyway. In other news, so that's a definite possibility with that. See, these are the Iger Corporation is much more valuable as parts than it is as an actual whole. And I would hope that what James Gorman and the other people are looking at is looking at that problem where they do need to go ahead and they need to start divesting out of certain businesses. And here's another thing that most people would say, because they're looking at it like a very empire mentality, is that it's just like, oh, but Disney owns this and it owns this, it owns half the world with this. It's just like, let me ask you a question. What does the Marvel brand do for the Walt Disney Company? And the answer is nothing. Because if they make money and they have they come up with a really good film, then okay, that works for them. How does that help Disney? In fact, it actually hurts Disney, because what that means is, and this is the thing that I'm always afraid of when I look at like box office results, is like, oh great, this is a hit. That means that we're going to lose another attraction. That means that we're going to lose another thing, and they're going to put in a stupid, vapid thing inside the parks. So that's the reason. That's one of the reasons why I haven't went to a single Disney movie since 2018. So, because I'm just like, I'm not going to support any of this stuff that they've come out with. That so there is opportunity for that. You just have to get out of the Iger mindset. You have to get out of the buy, consume situation. And the other thing about it is too. Now, if you look at the way that the studios are, they're actually the only problem that you have in Hollywood right now is scriptwriters. The only people that you have are the idea people that the problem is with. Because if you would look at it like Last Jedi, which we all hate, no one can deny how gorgeous looking that movie is, or how gorgeous looking Wicked is, or anything. Pick anything else out. The technicals are amazing in Hollywood right now. All the technical professions are doing amazing. They get caught up by scriptwriters. And most of the time it's because scriptwriters are either way too much of a certain political leaning, or they don't have any actual life experience because they went straight into script writing afterward. Here's something that's interesting that you could do, especially related to the theme parks, because they don't have any good ideas for there either right now. Now, I have been blessed in my life because I have a rather large archive of classified material for Walt Disney Imagineering. There, for every single attraction that you see inside the park, there's 100 other ideas that they didn't implement, and of those 100, 10 of them could have been implemented, except they didn't have enough money or the technology for it. Well, now we can have the money and the technology for it. So you don't need any new ideas for at least 10, 15 years while you're gathering up the creative juices for something else. You can go ahead and you can implement, just go inside the vault and just like, oh, look, there's this wonderful attraction over here that we never actually built because we didn't have the money. Well, now we can go on and we can do that. So there's hope for the company. It's just you have to get out of this mindset.
You're a very intelligent man, and I would vote for you as CEO of the company. Just saying.
Right? Have a book with all this history laid out that I could read.
I wish I did, but no one reads anymore, so you'd have to do it in video, or you have to do it something like this and everything. Unfortunately, people don't do that. Now, I know that I'm a weird historian doing that, but I'm just like, no, people are not interested in the written word. I mean, that's the reason why whenever I ask people, I'm just like, do you have an audiobook available for what you're doing? Because if you don't have an audiobook, I'm not going to read it. Because we're all busy, we all have things to do. So, yeah, but I mean, like I've got other stuff on there.
Now, you mentioned the horrible incorporation of IP into the parks right now. And I guess that brings us to the next side of the story, which is we now know where Monsters Inc. Land is going to end up going in Disney's Hollywood studios. I think the conception of a Monsters Inc. Land, I think, was maybe a little bit flawed from the get-go, but now it's really, really bad, given that Disney is set to destroy the Muppets for Monsters Inc. Yeah, Josh Giamaro, when he got up on D23 to announce the Monsters Inc. Land back a couple of months ago, back in August, he didn't actually detail where Monsters Inc. would go because, well, he knew that any replacement of the Muppets wouldn't necessarily be seen that well, let's say. Joshua, I I want to ask you what you think about all of this. I know you've really been you've done some great work restoring those photos that we showed earlier, and they look absolutely phenomenal. I know you're very opinionated when it comes to the implementation of some of these IPs and incorporations of these IPs into these theme parks. I dare ask, what's your thoughts on all this?
Okay, I'm going to alienate most of your audience for 5 seconds. Okay, so just give me a second for that.
All right.
I personally, for myself as Joshua, which should have no influence on you or anybody that's listening whatsoever, do not necessarily have an emotional attachment to the Muppets. It's not my thing. I'm sorry, it's just not my thing. I have tons of other things that are my thing, like Classic Epcot, which I do on Epcot Legacy and everything else. But that's just not one of my things. But that is not the point. That is not part of the issue. The issue is that Jim Henson, it's undeniable his cultural impact on society for the last 50 to 60 years.
Right.
And it is something that should be preserved, and it is something that should be protected at all costs. And I will fight for that, even though no one fought with me for Universe of Energy or Great Movie Ride or the Center of Epcot or any of these other things that I've been rattling on about for the past at least 10 years or so. That it doesn't. I will still stand up and support this because it's wrong for people for them to do this. Especially it's wrong because if you even look at the concept art, this has no impact whatsoever on them creating this Monsters Inc. door coaster. Which, by the way, I remember seeing when I was when I was working in the company. I saw that in I think it was around 2005 or so. Yeah. It was on a specific something they don't have anymore. So I guess I could say this. It was something called the J Drive, which was a unit drive inside the company. Right. And I saw all the blueprints for it. It was very confusing because it goes really weird serpentine thing, and you're looking at it through pages and pages, but still pretty fascinating. It's almost identical to the thing that they're actually building right now. It's just that they're placing the entrance on the long side as opposed to the short side. So that's them, I guess, doing the thing that I wanted them to do, which is look at old concepts. So I'm like, but not that one. And also Monsters Inc. I mean, Monsters Inc. is not a huge property right now. Monsters Inc. is not. I mean, it's a 20-year-old property. Yeah, they had 2 movies and they had a couple of little animated shorts here and there, but it's not something that's really cultural relevant in this day and age. I mean, if you really wanted to get down to the brass tacks of it, Muppets is a far more powerful brand and a far more lucrative brand than the monsters have been or will ever be. Can you after Mike and Sully and Roz, can you list off 10 characters for that right now? And I'm pretty sure that you can't, because it's not something that's that terribly memorable. It also, and this goes into my anti-IP dissertation, is that Monsters Inc., the world of Monsters Inc., is not really that much different than your average urban area. It's not really something that's really, it doesn't follow a time-honored concept in theme parks called exoticism. Exoticism means that when you're going inside these parks, you're looking to be transported to somewhere else. This is the reason why when you go to Disneyland Paris, they have Phantom Manor as opposed to the Haunted Mansion, because in Europe, haunted manors of a European vernacular, which is basically what our Haunted Mansion is, are a dime a dozen over there. One of the things that would make it stand out is what about if it was a haunted Old West manor, which is the reason why you have Phantom Manor over there, and it's also the reason why you don't see Disney's Great Florida Adventure Park inside of Florida. That would be a stupid thing to do. For one thing, it's enormously flat. Not much happens, but still, that would be another problem that I have with this whole entire Monsters Inc. concept with that. And additionally, another thing about the parks and IP implementation is that when you're looking at a successful film properties are based off of character, plot, story. Those are the things that make a successful movie. But what makes a successful theme park is things like environment, setting, design. Those are the things that are really, really standing out in what makes a successful theme park environment. Well, those are crisscrossed inside of the post Bob Chapek, Bob Iger land, because only the most successful films get implemented into the theme parks. And the most successful things that should be going into theme parks are things that probably are not successful. Things like Tron, for example. Tron is not necessarily a very lucrative property, but the grid is an enormously evocative and wonderful world to inhabit, and it's something that is completely opposed to your every single day. So they're always so that's a problem that I have with this whole entire Monsters Inc. implementation, and the fact that it's not even consuming the same exact footprint. This goes perfectly in line, by the way, with the thing that I've been saying for a long while, because people are harping on about how the problems are with Tiana's Bayou Adventure and how horrible they're able to do it. I'm like, that was never the point. That was never the point. The point was just to remove Splash Mountain. That is the number one objective for this company right now. Remove Splash Mountain. They are actually, this is something that is just audacious to me, is what they've been doing with Tokyo. I mean, they will never, they actually are wanting to fund it for them to transform that. That is ideological zealotry at the highest point. I mean, like, I know that they worship at the altar of money, but my God, to do that, it's just like, it boggles my mind. I'm just like, you feel so passionately about removing this extraordinarily progressive film, by the way, from public consciousness and existence, that you're willing to pay for something in Tokyo, where Tokyo foots the bill for everything, including the R&D for all their attractions.
Correct.
I mean, this is all profoundly pathological behavior by the Iger regime. So you just look at it. It's the reason why you're trying to make sense of it is because, and you're having trouble with it, is because it's actually insane.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So with Tokyo, because I haven't heard the latest, they're towing the line, right? They're not allowing Disney USA to come in and do anything. Are they protecting the mountain? Yeah,
they're protecting it. They don't want any part of this. They don't like any of the woke postmodern tendencies of the West.
No,
I just want to make sure we were still, because you just never know. I know that. That's good.
We have a segment covering all of what has recently occurred there at Tokyo's Splash Mountain, and why it might be safe for the moment, but maybe not long term, which is really, really interesting. I guess my big issue with all of this, with getting rid of Splash Mountain and getting rid of Muppet Vision 3D and getting rid of all of these, almost institutions unto themselves at Walt Disney World is, and Rivers of America. Don't you start to strip away what Walt Disney World, why everybody visited that place to begin with? Don't you?
Well, that's the whole thing.
It?
That's the whole thing because there is if they are allowed to do everything that they want to do with the resort right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying this hyperbolically, and I hate saying this. I profoundly hate saying this because Walt Disney World was my home for 25 years. And it was something that I've been deeply connected to for 35 years now.
Mhm.
That if they are allowed to do what they're doing with Rivers America, and considering what they've done with everything else, Epcot, Great Movie Ride, there's way too long of a list right now. There is no Walt Disney World anymore. And the thing about it is that when Chapek came in, he came in with two prejudices about Imagineering. He came in with the prejudice that the top-ranking Imagineers were way too overpaid, and that's why a lot of people retired in 2015. And he also said that it takes too long to do anything, which, by the way, that's a feature, not a bug, because when you're dealing with a enterprise like this, you're dealing with a structure with an attraction that has to survive, or optimally should survive, for 20 to 30 years, possibly forever. Well, if it takes you 5 to 6 years to do that, that's perfectly fine. But that was not appropriate for Chapek. So, and that also, one of the things that they're doing right now is that they've radically changed these parks so much that even if you were to accept, which I absolutely do not, even if they were to accept that every single change that they were made was for the positive, which again we know is stupid, but if it was for the positive, it still doesn't work because you have no continuity. What's the point if you change everything over constantly? Then there's no reason for you to go back to experience it with your children. This is a generational property. This is the genius, unintended. Actually, it's unintended. This is the genius of the theme park design. Is that okay? I loved going on Horizons as a kid, or Journey into Imagination as a kid, and I want to go ahead and I want to bring my kids to it, and then my kids will love it, and then they'll want to bring their children, and that's a dividend that can play in perpetuity. So when you're looking at the way in which Walt Disney World is operating right now, I'm struggling to find out exactly where the Walt Disney World part of Walt Disney World is anymore.
That's just the name now. There's nothing behind the name.
It's really tough. I mean, there were conversations. I don't know if you know this, Joshua, but there were conversations that of taking Walt out of Walt Disney World and just having it be Disney World. Because better search engine optimization for one, but two, it basically everybody just says either they're going to Disney or Disney World. They don't actually say Walt Disney World. Why not make the resort more consistent with what's relevant today? It really is fascinating how they treat this specific resort. Go ahead, Ron.
If Bob had his way, it would be called Bob Iger's Disney World.
Yes, Walt Disney World inspired by Bob Iger. It's absolutely insane. It's crazy. Go ahead,
wise humans can create, foolish humans can only destroy, and that's his legacy.
It is. It's a legacy of destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, I 100% agree, and I think this really epitomizes a lot of that sentiment. Unfortunately. And Josh G. Morrow is part of this. This is part of this too. This whole idea that you're not going to actually tell people that something like this is going to take place when you announce a Monsters Inc. land, like they did at D23 in August, when they don't post about it on social media. That's another thing that's been going on right now. Why aren't you talking about this specific changeover? Do you think that you'll get pushback for this? I mean, it's cowardice. It's a betrayal.
By the way,
oh, go ahead.
What is supposed to go, like the building, Muppet Vision 3D? The building is still there. Right. What's it going to be used for in Monstropolis? What Will
It's
it be
there.
a 3D film?
It's there
Yes.
Will
to
it be so?
And if it was so
Monsters.
powerful, then why wouldn't you announce that right then and there? You see, the whole entire thing
Exactly.
that should be happening with this in an alternate universe that actually has some sanity in it in the Walt Disney Company is that you would actually just like, we're getting rid of Muppet Vision 3D, and it's amazing because we're going to create something that's Muppet Vision 6D, and we're gonna do something else that's going to be freaking amazing. You know, forget that old one. It's going to be you're not even going to care anymore about that because we're going to create something that's so amazing. But now it's just like, oh no, we're getting rid of it because we're putting something else down the street.
That's the
what's so
thing. The
weird. Like,
theater's
no,
still
it's still
there.
there. What are they going to
It's
use
still
it
there.
for?
They could keep the Muppets there. What they're saying that they're going to use it for, if we go off of the press release, which I think this is it, if I'm not mistaken. What they're going to do is they're going to put in a Monsters Inc. themed show inside of that theater, which is a little bit bizarre because we already have a laugh floor over there in Tomorrowland and Magic Kingdom.
And you know that they have lines going out of the door for that. I mean, you have to. I have to rope drop Monsters Inc. laugh floor. You know?
Oh yeah, that's
You know, Marina brought up a good point on her stream. She said that she has a strong suspicion that the show that will go in that building will be, you know how in the movie they had that corporate show, she's out of our hair,
Mm-hmm.
that they might bring that to as a live show.
Okay.
I'm like, oh gosh. I'm like, that sounds so terrible. Yeah, I could actually see them doing it because of their track record so far.
You
The
can
theater's
keep
not-
the
Answer
Muppets
that.
there. Just keep them there. You don't have to do anything. Change the pre-show
Yeah,
a
that's
little
the funny
bit.
thing.
That's it.
You could keep the Muppets there because it's not as if the Muppets cannot be seen alongside of Monsters Inc. And it doesn't have to be Monstropolis. Just like
I mean,
was it
with animals.
earlier that you were making the point on a different show or something that, you know, in Magic Kingdom you have Tomorrowland, it's got a whole bunch of different IPs in it. You have Fantasyland, a whole bunch of different IPs. Marvin made that point, I believe. And so this could be a land where you have several different IPs. It doesn't have to be Monstropolis. And considering how bad of a job they did with Toy Story Land as far as theming as well as Galaxy's Edge, I mean, if they messed up Star Wars as bad as they did, what's gonna happen here?
Yeah, well, that's unfortunately that's the dark legacy of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Because when they came out with that, I mean, I was one of the people. I was young and naive and optimistic. I thought, okay, good, then there will be competition inside of the thing, so Disney will do better on this. I'm just like, oh no, they'll copy the playbook from their lower competition. Remember that Disney at the time, and still up until like 5 seconds ago, they were numbers 1 through 6 domestically in highest theme park attendance.
Correct.
So their idea that this is so stupid with the executives. Okay, they get one little blip, one little hit with Harry Potter, and they decided it was just like, oh wait a minute, we're going to copy the business model from a lower end of our competition. How does that make sense from a business perspective? It doesn't. What they should have done is just like, okay, well, fine. Universal will do that. We will become much more of ourselves. We will become much more of a Disney thing. We will amp up the Disney-ness of our nature. We will not say, okay, oh yeah, we're going to become more like Universal.
Because Bob Iger's not creative. He's not a creative person. That's all. Like, he's responsive, not creative, and that's a whole different thing.
That's true.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Is he's just reacting. Everything is just reactional. You know, you know, and it's
which is the reason. Which is what weathermen do, by the way. Weathermen are thermometers. They're not thermostats.
And it shows just how much it boggles the mind, because if they say, for example, kept Muppet Vision at that spot, you know, within the Monsters Inc. land, that's going to bring bigger profits than whatever Monsters Inc. thing you would put there. You know, have you ever been to a theme park where it's like, oh, or actually even within Disney World, oh, you have the teacups, which is not too far away from another attraction or something like that. It just gives you more options. But instead of going after real profits, which is a variety of options to pick from for your park goers, instead it's like, hey boss, look, we have a whole land here that's so immersive. It's going to really bring up our chart a lot, as opposed to something people actually go to see. And it just blows my mind of how they would rather put up a snake skin of what's going to make money as opposed to what's actually going to make money.
Well, this is one of the things that I've constantly talked about, Nolan, which is what when you're looking at something like Epic Universe, and I know I'm probably going to get a lot of people throwing things at me right now. Epic Universe has 4 IPs. I personally care about none of them. None of them. There's only 4 of them though, so that's fair. You know, it's just like if you pick out 4 IPs out of a random hat and everything, me not liking them is probably just as high an average as a large part of the audience, and excuse me, of the guests that you're going to experience inside of a theme park. But if you look at something like Disneyland has something in their neighborhood of 37 IPs. So there's tons of stuff for everyone there. And that's what Disney has been doing. They've been going towards the model of, oh no, we only want to have 4 or 5 in there. Because if you look at Hollywood Studios, there's only right now, I think that maybe, I mean, if you wanted to count them, there's probably about like 6 or 7 IPs for the whole entire thing. And if you don't like all of them, or at least like 1 or 2, then why go?
That's very true. Speaking of going, though, we have to see Ron Bradley out. Thank you so much for joining us. I know he was like, I got a hard stop. I do apologize. Ron, where can people find you?
Follow the Bradley's Fun, as you can see on your screen right there on YouTube. And if you just type in Follow the Bradley's Fun in the search of X, or what used to be called Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, it's all right there, and there you go. So, and have a great rest of your Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you so much, Ron.
You too,
Very
Ron.
much
Happy
appreciated.
Thanksgiving.
You too.
So great to have you. Have a great Thanksgiving, my friend.
Happy
And
Thanksgiving,
Josh,
sir.
you saw Joshua saw my message, so hopefully it'll be up later.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, sir. Well, that just about brings us to, I guess, our last and final part about this Muppets saga right here. It's interesting how this whole thing is developed, because you have the Jim Henson Company making a statement on what the next act for the Muppets might be. Then you have Disney themselves putting out word that they're going to replace Aerosmith at Rockin' Roller Coaster with the Muppets, which is totally bizarre. We lost Josh, but we'll go ahead and have him come back on.
Glitch.
The Disney ninjas got him.
Hey, you know what? You never know.
Ninjas.
You never know, but he is very much welcome on. And if he doesn't come back, by the way, follow Joshua Harris on Twitter. I'll go ahead and put his Twitter in the chat when I get to it. But he's just a phenomenal resource, just an amazing historian. I mean, he's you heard his passion there.
I could listen to him forever. Oh my gosh. I was just hooked on every word. Oh, wow.
I feel like I was in like
I could listen to him all day.
I feel like I was in like a college class or something like that, from like words of wisdom. I'm just like, please tell me more, professor.
Yes, exactly. Like, oh, tell me more. So I didn't mind him talking the whole time. I was like, oh, this is just so good.
Absolutely, 100%. It looks like he is back on right now. Joshua, we got you.
Yeah, I pressed the wrong button. So I don't do this that often. So
No, you're fine. You are completely fine. You're no issues there. But I want to go into this last part about it, and this is such a bizarre thing, because you have Rockin' Roller Coaster, right? You have Rockin' Roller Coaster, this Aerosmith themed coaster inside of Disney's Hollywood Studios. I don't know. You squint hard enough, maybe it fits, maybe it doesn't. I'm sure Joshua will have a lot to say about fitting and the incorporation of IP and modern celebrities and so forth. But okay, fine, whatever. We have this attraction, and really, I think it's become a fan favorite ever since its inception. Obviously, it's one of it's, I believe, the manufacturers of Vekoma, definitely one of the most intense of Disney's attractions. One of the first with onboard music, and for a experience like this, they really have elevated the game in terms of a themed coaster and so forth. But now we're going to incorporate the Muppets onto this. I just think it's a bizarre mix and something that was maybe rushed at the last minute to try to throw a bone to fans. I don't know. What do you guys think on this?
I don't think this is going to work. Apologies if I'm kind of piggybacking off something Erica said earlier, but, just the age gap, because what I'm fearing what's going to happen to the Muppets with how they've handled the property lately with, the neglect of it outside of the CGI Muppet Baby show, which even then that was a bit controversial. Muppet Vision 3D is a ride that can pretty much appeal to almost everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea, of course, as we've seen with what Joshua was saying, but it's got a very broad appeal. You could take your grandma in there and just sit her down, put the glasses on. Anybody can get in. It doesn't matter if you're a little kid, an adult, an edgy teenager. Anybody can get behind how it's presented. When you put them in Rockin' Roller Coaster, you have the same problem that happened when they turned Splash Mountain into Tiana's Bayou Adventure. That was a ride in the 1990s that was intended to get the older audience into Disney because it was supposed to be a fun, eventful ride. It was a little more extreme. You had to be a little bit older to ride it. When they rethemed it to Tiana, now you have it there where it's aimed at mostly little girls, but instead you're putting it on a ride that wasn't made for those little girls. So there's a little bit of an age gap where the ride's a little bit too extreme at certain places for them with that drop. With Muppets, if there's already the age gap on, if you're able to ride this, you can't be like a little 4-year-old riding this ride, then you've missed a critical part of your future fan base. Because what's going to happen with the Muppets is if only the older riders can experience this ride, it's going to be seen as a nostalgic property aimed at adults. It's kind of like with McDonald's these days, how most of the advertisements with, like, say, the Hamburglar or Grimace or such are aimed at those who grew up with those fast food chains and stuff when they were pushing that stuff on kids. Whereas, like, your little 4-year-olds, they don't know who those characters are because they were never exposed to it at those ages. And like when I was growing up. And I think the same thing can dangerously happen with the Muppets. If there's no new movies for the kids to watch, if they can't even get on the ride, they're not old enough to ride on, then most of the people are going to be going on are people who remember them from the 80s or the 90s. I think the concept is great, but if you remove Muppet Vision just for this, I think that can doom the Muppets' future. Anyone disagree here?
That's exactly how I feel. Is that this is like it's like they're purposely just forcing the Muppets into their coffin. They just don't want to do it right away so quickly. So they just decided, oh, we'll reskin the roller coaster, across the street because it's cheaper and easier and we got to do something with it anyways. And we don't want too much controversy, who is it? Someone in the chat had mentioned, I forgot, was it Aldo's Journal? Had mentioned, no, maybe it was Dan's Life at the Kingdom. Yeah, it was Dan's Life at the Kingdom. Muppets on a coaster. They did that to avoid controversy. And
Yes.
yeah, to an extent they did. They didn't want to hear it, but it's like, but you still cause controversy nonetheless, because Muppets is not just a brand for those for Gen X. It was created to be passed down, and it has been passed down. Now I can't promise my granddaughters, really know who the Muppets are, but they're still young enough that you could still introduce them to the Muppets and them enjoy and love the Muppets to the point where they would want the merch and etc. But I mean, they could have at least balanced it out with. But they're not going to do it. Here's me wishful thinking. They could have balanced it out with a family ride or something that just, I don't know. It's just so backwards what they're doing.
Well, one of the things that was that if you notice in the press release, it's not necessarily Muppets and Electric Mayhem. In the press release, I believe that the actual verbiage, and I'm just going to paraphrase here for a moment, is that they will be introducing acts. So
Yes.
you might have Kermit that says, "Oh, okay, here's Miley Cyrus for doing this." And they'll have the flavor of the month band person. So it'll be something like the Universal Rip Ride Rocket thing, where they can go ahead and they can interchange out different music from different groups. Because also just the thought of any Muppets music accompanying a roller coaster seems really, really weird to me, because it's all based off of like vaudevillian type of tunes and genres and everything. You don't really want to do that. The interesting thing about the Rock and Roller Coaster as it was being developed is that it wasn't. They were going to create a fictitious band initially to go ahead and overlay on the entire attraction. But they decided that they wanted to go with something that has enormous name recognition, and Aerosmith was actually working with Jerry Bruckheimer on Armageddon at the time that they were developing it and everything. So they decided to go ahead and extend, not necessarily that contract, but extend another contract to them, so that they would be the faces of this new Rock and Roller Coaster. I worked next to it for like 10 years because I worked at the Hollywood Tower Hotel, which I still say in character. And you know what, we would always talk about our noisy neighbors over at G4 Records. So they would be I'm like the whole entire Aerosmith angle is very, very awkward and weird, but it's kind of it's like a fungus, you know. It's just like, you know, it's grown into itself over there. And I'm like, if you want to get rid of Aerosmith on them, that's fine. One of the things that I will say though that's kind of interesting is that when I was working at the Tower of Terror, we would have whenever we had conventions, which was usually early in the year, somewhere around like January to March or April, we would have like park closing and then convention open. And if those two were really spread out, like sometimes within like a couple of hours or so, what we would do as a typical tradition is we would go ahead and most of our cast at Tower would go over to Rock and Roller Coaster and ride their ride, and vice versa. And we would do it in different modes. So we would ride it with all the lights on. We would ride it with no music. We would do it in like different formats and everything. And we would do the same thing over at Tower. The most awesome experience, and I got to experience this like once or twice because I always got voted out of it, is that if you have all of the audio off inside of that attraction, no audio, and pitch blackness, it is terrifying. It is really thrilling, and it's really amazing. I'm like, you should just strip out the thing and just put you could put like almost nothing in there. It could be like a Disney Villains coaster or something, and it would just be an amazing experience. But putting in this Muppets thing, I mean, like, this makes no sense to me. But then again, everything else that they do makes no sense. So I guess it makes sense on the inverse spectrum. And yeah, you're completely right, Erica. This is totally against what you should do with any kind of demographic. And the same thing with what they did with Splash Mountain as well. They really don't have the foresight on that. And also, there's no one that's actually studying these demographics anymore. Because you know, they're one of the concepts that they use in Imagineering, and I always kind of like bristled about this when I was hearing about it with my friends in WDI, is that they never say no, they say yes. And they're very like their entire concept is just like, we don't want to discourage anyone's ideas, we don't want to discourage a person's creativity, so they adopt this thing. And then yes and is a very much of a improvisational riff that actors do. I'm like, no, I feel like there should definitely be a no sometimes. There should definitely be like
yes
no.
Man.
Yeah,
Disney
exactly. Yeah.
didn't hesitate to say no when it was needed. You know, there were times where he was just like, yeah, no, it's just, this isn't gonna, I mean, he wasn't afraid of the word no.
Walt told people no all the time. I can assure you of that. I mean, he was very particular about what he wanted and what he thought, what he felt was best for the parks experience. And for movies and the creative output at the Walt Disney Company. That's absolutely for sure. To go along with Joshua's point about the press release and talking about introducing musical acts, it says this right here: to make way for the monsters, the Frog, Miss Piggy, and more of their friends will be moving right along to Sunset Boulevard. But there's more to the story. The Muppets will be taking over Rock and Roller Coaster, teaming up with some of music's biggest stars for a rock and music festival. So it's not even really going to be Muppets lore or the iconic Muppets songs that will be featured here. It will be pop songs and musical artists that Disney deems worthy that will be incorporated into this specific attraction. I do agree with one of the comments. I believe it was Dan's Life at the Kingdom saying, was hoping for Powerliner Queen. I don't necessarily disagree.
That was the heaviest rumor I had heard.
Yeah,
I am so glad though.
Completely
I'm so glad that Disney is going to, choose, because there's so much music out there and such a variety of genres. They're going to pick some of the least divisive bands out there. They're going to choose like classics that everybody's going to start dancing when they hear that music. They're definitely not going to pick, a song that's on the #1 from last year or anything like that, right? Nope, they're not going to be chasing kids with this. Totally. They're going to be smart, right?
What kids?
Right?
Kids can't even ride the ride unless they're particular weight and height.
Yeah, well, that's another thing, though. It's just that they're actually going to. This reminds me of the whole entire situation that they have with the two Guardians attractions, because I've always made the conceit of just like the reason why anyone likes either one of those, both the Tower of Terror overlay that they have in California or the Vomit Comet over at the former Universe of Energy. The only reason why people like them is because they have the best feel-good music that's on there as the soundtrack. I mean, you could have the most miserable experience in the world, but I could have the most worst day in my life. But if I play September while I'm doing that, I'm going to have a great day.
It's
emotional manipulation.
Well, you're not exactly wrong. Somebody is joining us right now, and he's joining us from a unique location. I'm very interested in what this is all about. Onto the panel right now, Barry Place 28. Bob, what's going on? Where are you at?
Well, I'm actually over at my mother-in-law's house, and we're getting ready to do Thanksgiving. But I couldn't not stop by and wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving, and at least join in maybe a topic or two before we get started. Although I'm not sure how quickly they're going to be cutting the turkey. I just wanted to make sure I stopped by. So VashSky, obviously Nolan and Erica, good to see you. Joshua, how are you? Nice to meet you. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you and to everyone in the chat. I'm not looking at the chat right now because I've got the one hand and I'm doing my best to cover this. But hey, I might be walking down the street, so hang in with me if I am doing that.
Absolutely. And you're coming in loud and clear. By the way, Bob does a fantastic job on Barry Place 28, documenting the parks in general, but also too live streaming from there. Just amazing stuff. You've definitely got to give Barry Place 28 a subscribe because he is in the parks, whether it be Knott's Berry Farm, Disneyland, or even Universal Studios Hollywood, Six Flags, all kinds of stuff all the time. Definitely check him out. Yes, why don't you go ahead and join us for a topic? In fact, we're just about to move on to our next topic right here, and it was one that Joshua actually talked about before, which was what's happening with Splash Mountain in Tokyo. I think this is a very interesting story because,
at least for now.
For now, right? The rumors are out there, and yes, there is a lot of pressure being placed on Oriental Land Company, who are the owners and operators of Tokyo Disneyland, Tokyo Disney Seas, and so forth, to have their version of Splash Mountain converted from Song of the South themed to something else, right? Now we know that that has been staved off, at least for the time being. Tokyo Disneyland is keeping Splash Mountain, at least for now. This is by Marvin Montanaro. Posted today, actually, so very cool. Recent announcements made by Tokyo Disneyland seem to confirm a theme that Park Place report from October, which stated that despite what other outlets were reporting, Tokyo Disneyland has no plans to close its Splash Mountain attraction anytime soon. Tokyo Disneyland has the last Splash Mountain in existence, with both Disneyland and Walt Disney World shuttering their explosively popular attractions for the mediocre marvel that is Tiana's Bayou Adventure. This ideologically driven move came from the Disney Stories Matter Department, a division of the company charged with eliminating, quote, problematic elements from the Disney parks and online platforms. Because of the rights association with the Disney film Song of the South, it was apparently racist and had to go. This narrative was echoed all too happily by the Disney Access media, and we hope the cupcakes they received were delicious, with some referring to it as, quote, a necessary downgrade. And Marvin gets creative, when he writes his articles, as you can see. Our sources indicated that Disney was trying to pressure Tokyo Disneyland to follow suit, but the Oriental Land Company, which owns the overseas park, had no interest in turning over one of its most popular attractions over to Western identity politics. Tokyo Disneyland announced its upcoming 2025 schedule, and fans noticed Splash Mountain annual Get Soaked Max special presentation front and center. During the summer months, Tokyo Disneyland turns the water level up at Splash Mountain, creating a refreshing waterlogged experience where guests can, get soaked to the max. And yes, that's in the calendar for 2025, at least for the time being. It is safe and sound. Guys, your reactions?
I'm scared because after what Joshua was just saying about how, Disney is notorious for backing people into a corner and forcing these basically manipulating their way into just getting what they want. And it seems like they always get what they want. It's kind of terrifying.
I can see the heads of Tokyo Disney like making the George Lucas face right now, like signing the paper and they're really upset looking. I can see them doing that.
Yes, exactly.
I would think that actually this is probably good news because there's a certain event that's going to be happening in this nation on January 20th that I think is going to pretty much change the world. And really, you could look at that from a societal, sociological structure, regardless of how you come down on any particular issue and everything. We're looking at a time where we're actually going to be going away from things like the apparently stories don't really matter group because they like to kill all the stories. So they're going to be on their way out. All of those people are going to be all the way out. They are like Walmart has just recently fired, not transposed, not converted, completely fired all their DEI officers. And that one's one of the largest employers in the United States. You have many other firms that are going to be doing that as well. So the stories matter, people. Well, stories are actually going to start mattering again very, very soon. So I really don't see that that's going to be too much of a problem. When they say that they've staved it off for now, I think that they pretty much staved it off permanently, because if you can get past the next 12 months or so, it's over. They're not going to go ahead. They're not going to retheme this at all. Also, Tokyo is having some financial problems right now, as well, which is related to economic forces which have nothing to do with what they're doing, as opposed to what happens with the domestic parks, which is almost 100% because of the mismanagement of Iger. Tokyo is having to deal with other things, so they're already having enormous financial trouble over there. They just opened the Fantasy Springs, which was an enormous cost over there, and is not paying off too well.
It's not.
And I could look at that. I would love to analyze that, but you probably don't have time for that right now. But still, because there's some weird stuff about that. But still, the Splash Mountain should be fine for right now, because most of those people are going to be going away. They're going to announce a successor for Bob Iger next year. The fact that Gorman wants to go outside the company, I think that not only is that going to be a good thing in many different aspects, but also it's a person that Iger does not currently control. Now, in the past, I would think that it was anathema for them to select anybody that's outside the company. But now I think that the exact opposite is true. I'm like, I don't care. Josh D'Amaro could literally be the third Walt Disney 3.0. That's obviously stupid, but he could be that. But I still wouldn't trust him because he was put in place underneath Iger. So
that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Bob, I think you had something to say there.
No,
you can hear me.
I didn't really. I will say that. You guys okay?
Oh, you're coming in a little poor there.
Let me.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I'll say this about this whole thing. I think Josh is exactly correct, by the way. Tokyo, or I should say Oriental Land Company, is having some really bad financial problems right now. I believe the Fantasy Springs project was $2.4 billion. It was well over $2 billion for that whole project, and it hasn't really paid off in the way that they imagined that it would. And it's obviously that's pretty damaging to your bottom line, and maybe investing in projects going forward.
Oh, okay, we lost Vash.
We lost Vash. Oh boy.
Oh my.
So,
Well, no, take it
all right,
take it
all
away.
right, with no Vash here. So Splash Mountain in Tokyo Disney. Oh, we got Vash back. Okay,
We're back.
welcome back.
Sorry about that.
That's bad.
My computer is not liking being on all day streaming like this. The iron is the hottest that it will ever be right now, right? So by the time it cools, Joshua could be absolutely correct. The enthusiasm might have cooled with that in order to convert an attraction like this. Bob, you were going to say.
Oh, there, I'm back. For some reason, when we lost you, you lost me too. So, hey, so look, I know Joshua just went on a little rant there, but and it was awesome. I loved all the stuff I was hearing. But as far as Tokyo goes, I'm glad that they're not doing anything and they're not getting rid of it. I hope it stays for a long time. I hope it's not one of those things like we just encountered with Spider-Man, where the fact is, oh, we're going to keep the Spider-Man show. It's not going to go away, and then boom, November 17th, they took it away from DCA. So I hope it's not one of those things. That's my biggest fear. But I'm really hoping that the Oriental Land Company keeps it and they stick to the guns and that Disney is not able to take it away. To me, it needs to stay around. I got to tell you, I was on Tiana's Bayou Adventure again yesterday at Disneyland, and it broke down while we're waiting, and it broke down twice yesterday, and it's ridiculous. It's a brand new ride, and it just keeps getting shut down, and it's following
I'm
the
so
same footsteps
shocked.
as Walt
Oh
Disney World.
no, so shocked.
Well, yeah, I'm not shocked either, Joshua. I mean, to be honest with you, so I was at D23, and I know I've talked about this on the show, but when I went to D23, I asked them, well, what are you guys doing differently so that you don't have the same problems and issues that you had over in Walt Disney World with Disneyland? Well, we're trying to learn from our, issues and mistakes and stuff. It's like, okay, so are you making any changes? Are you doing anything different? Well, we're always trying to improve things. Okay, so you guys aren't doing anything. And they didn't. And to this day, Mama Odie is still not working completely. Her mouth doesn't move at the very, very end. Juju is finally coming out, the snake, which is nice. But, to see things not working is very, very disappointing. I mean, you would have thought that they would have tried to work without the Kings. But as I've said, my source kept saying it's not ready for November 15th. They're going to open it anyhow, whether you like it or not. And they're still having problems and issues. And they are. And to me, that is such a bad faux pas. Disney would never let that happen. If Walt Disney was alive, he would make sure it's ready to go. It works. In fact, even after he left, us, we still got great rides and attractions, and the Imagineers cared about everything. But now they just don't care. I mean, it's like, they announced yesterday, and I hope I'm not, I don't know, because I haven't been following the show here, but I don't know if you guys have talked about it, but they just announced, the name for Madame Leota's, new shop at the Haunted Mansion. Somewhere Beyond, Madame Leota, Somewhere Beyond. I know she says Regions Beyond and Somewhere Beyond, but that to me is just that. You could have come up with a much better name for that. Not only that, but I mean, the lights are too bright. There's so many issues, but that's my concern, is that Imagineers aren't doing what they need to do. So as far as I'm concerned, Oriental Land Company can keep Splash Mountain. I hope they keep it. I hope they don't get rid of it and it stays for a very long time. In the meantime, our Imagineers need to, get it kicked in gear, and they need to do something quick because things are just falling apart over the parks.
Bob, are you saying that the shop outside of Haunted Mansion is going to be called Regions Beyond, Somewhere Beyond?
No, it's called Madame Leota's Somewhere Beyond. They just announced it. They
You're not
just
keeping
showed
it
some
Memento
new.
Mori?
Nope. It doesn't sound like it.
It's
What?
called Madame Leota's Somewhere Beyond. That's what it's called. You can go look it up.
Memento
They just
Mori
announced
was
it yesterday,
perfect.
and they have some
Good
more
Lord.
concept art. Now, the one thing is, I was right that they are going to show some stuff from Museum of the Weird in there, which is going to be great. A lot of Rolly Crump stuff, so that's going to be awesome. But come on, Madame Leota's Somewhere Beyond. That's what you're going to call the shop? Okay, whatever.
Why didn't you just call it the Museum of the Whatever. Just I don't
Oh my
understand.
gosh.
That would have been better.
Somewhere. We
Right?
don't know where.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Is Disney
Um,
World going to be pulling the same thing? Are they going to tear down that shop and rebuild a new
doesn't
one and
I
rename it?
don't think so. I don't think. Well,
I hope
Rivers of
I don't think
America,
so
that
either.
whole destruction project is right next door. So never say never, I guess. Speaking of never say never, though, at the very end of this article, Marvin includes this. Still, the original report from the other outlets referenced a 2027-2028 window for Splash Mountain in Tokyo closing, which gives them plenty of time for people to forget that they never said it in the first place. I'll say this about 2027-2028. That is around the time that Space Mountain, their version of Space Mountain, that well, before they closed it, was basically a duplicate of Anaheim's Space Mountain at Disneyland. It ran for a number of years at Tokyo Disneyland. Well, they have recently closed it in order to reimagine that whole space to essentially a Space Mountain 2.0. They completely leveled the original attraction. They are building a far bigger attraction, far larger footprint. And the idea surrounding that whole thing is it will utilize a ride system very similar to what Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind already has. So obviously OLC executives were very smitten with the technology. Use a Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. They want a version of that for themselves. So when that opens, that I think is where the 2027-2028 time period comes in, where you could necessarily have enough capacity for the parks that you could take an attraction like Splash Mountain down. But as noted in this article right here, it's I believe there is a source that is actually referenced here. Guys, I'll be forthright. Scooper, WWE Pro of that park place, said on the Pro Show to a panel that included this reporter, I don't have anybody in my sources who say this is happening, and it's all for financial reasons. As Joshua pointed out, there's just not enough momentum to undertake a reimagining of this size and scope at one of the most visited theme parks in the world like this. So I think we're safe, but you never know. I'm sure all of you are very confident that nothing will happen to Splash Mountain
Nothing
after all
is
this whole
safe
thing.
from Bob Iger's line of sight. Just saying.
Yeah, exactly. Don't lose eye contact. He'll get you. That is for sure. Speaking of, well, more inclusion of IP in various places. Well, we just got an update actually surrounding Avengers Campus. There you go at Disney California Adventure. It's Joshua's favorite park actually, with his favorite IP coming to life. Right here. Sorry, Joshua, I had to do it to you. This be the Mercury.
I'm
Mercury
so
News.
ecstatic.
Yeah, so ecstatic for all of this. Disneyland submits plans for Avengers Campus expansion pre-work. Construction will begin in 2025 on the new Avengers Infinity Defense and Stark Flight Lab attractions. This by Brady McDonald. I believe it's a repost from Orange County Register, but don't quote me on that. Disneyland has taken the initial steps to begin backstage preparations for the expansions of Avengers Campus that will add 2 new attractions and double the size of Marvel-themed land at Disney's California Adventure. Disneyland has submitted a plan to the city of Anaheim for Avengers Campus expansion prep work that is currently under review, according to city officials. The plan submitted by Disneyland addresses utilities, temporary trailers, and parking lots in the backstage area behind Avengers Campus that would be impacted by the expansion itself. Bob, I'm going to go ahead and throw it to you. We're finally seeing the initial steps towards providing the attraction set that I think was promised initially with Avengers Campus, but never realized. Are you excited? Are you looking forward to it? With this being the case, when should we expect it to open, maybe?
Well, so let me go back a little bit. There's a thing that they announced like 4 years ago called Tiana's Bayou Adventure at D23, and 2 years later it got a downgrade, and 2 years later it got another downgrade. So, and it seems like this is what's happening to this ride. I'm so disappointed to hear, but it's like, even though I went to D23 this past year and I saw the ride vehicle, I just wasn't excited. I was like, oh, we're getting Spider-Man the ride from, Islands of Adventure, great, okay, or Transformers ride. I don't know that we need a screen ride like that, and it's just okay. Now, yes, they announced the other part that they're going to do, Stark Labs. Okay, great. But it's another ride that we've already seen and done over at Legoland and other places. So to me, I'm not thrilled about it. I'm grateful that they're going to put in some new attractions, and they got two because they definitely need it, and for that land, because that land is just not that great. However, we expected to see the permits start coming out about this time. Actually, I thought that they were going to come out a little bit sooner, but they're planning on shutting down certain areas. Like they're going to shut down the trolley. They're going to get rid of the roundhouse in the back. So, and that's in January. So I expected to see these permits a little bit sooner, but we're only a couple months away from them shutting that down. As far as actually, the rides opening, I don't think we're going to see anything until probably 2026. But that's my earliest guess from the source I'm talking to. I think that I think it'll be a welcome addition. But again, to me, it's like Spider-Man. I love that ride. It's cool, but it's not what I thought it would be. I'm a little disappointed in it. When I say I love it, I like the fact that I love Spider-Man. And I love the fact they had an attraction. I just think it was not as great as what everyone expected it to be.
Yeah.
I almost rather go play Toy Story Mania than do the spider web center. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. That's my guess right now is they're going to open in 2026. And yes, we're expecting things shut down. What I'm curious though is to see, are they going to shut down the roundhouse and shut down the trolley, and then are they going to relocate the roundhouse and bring it back? Or are they just going to leave it alone and leave those tracks there, and it's going to look really, 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 really weird until they get rid of the tracks if they decide to redevelop that land for something else. So we'll
That's
see.
the big key right here, because for Disney California Adventure's future, you could see that the red car trolley, if it doesn't have a future in future DCA, then why do you need the tracks to be there? Aren't they just tripping hazards at that point? Will the company actually spend money to remove them? That's a good point right there, Bob. And perhaps why we're hearing maybe the I don't know, the changing of where certain items for the future of DCA might be located. I think that's a good that's an astute point right there. As far as Avengers Campus is concerned, yeah, I the lack of ambition for this whole thing is really what has set me off about this the most, because the initial concept for this Avengers Campus e-ticket was it was like a motion simulator meets a kind of a theater attraction. So imagine Star Tours transforms into Avatar Flight of Passage. That was kind of the idea behind this Avengers e-ticket, which was really, really cool, because it would be a transformational process that you wouldn't necessarily recognize when getting into a vehicle, right? You have this three-point harness system that you would get into when you're entering like a Star Tours type vehicle, and you're going, well, that's a little bit odd, but then it would actually transform into an Avatar Flight of Passage scenario. Very cool, very ambitious, very complex, and yet that has now been downgraded to what is essentially Transformers 2.0 maybe, or Spider-Man 3.0, I guess that would be. It's a little bit disheartening. Avengers Campus, and never really lived up to the promise of being this all-out Marvel land to begin with. So to see downgrades in this instance, I think is very kind of troubling and upsetting. Nolan, I know you're a big fan of Spider-Man over there at Islands of Adventure. Are you looking forward to this attraction?
No, it looks irrelevant and boring. I mean, I'm just waiting for them to take She-Hulk off the right there and replace her with Deadpool. Like, it looks like this
yes, that did happen.
It looks like this was a ride that just fits the era of a few years ago so well, of all these concepts of like, this is what Marvel's going to look like post Endgame. And, it just feels so thrown together. I've seen more creative, I'm not knocking the artists here, just FYI, but I've seen more creative, like, usage by fans of taking a bunch of PNG images and throwing a bunch of characters together and making it look like a movie. This just feels like we're doing this because we have to fill the quota. I'm just not seeing enough things that just spark with me. It's like, oh my gosh, this is going to unite the heart and the audience that was applauding when they saw Infinity War, Endgame, and Civil War, No Way Home, all this stuff. I just don't feel that passion. I would love for the Imagineers to prove me wrong, but this just feels like a very by the books. It feels a little too much like, if I can compare it to anything, The Force Awakens, where it's very plug and play. You just plug, okay, here's our Luke character, here's our Han character, here's our Darth Vader. And except this is being done with like a lot of actual characters like Spider-Man, Iron Man, have you. I just don't see that extra spark that shows that this is going to be different. I just feel like this is going to be a little too heavy on the simulator aspect to kind of cut costs, as opposed to what can we do to bring some, I know it's overused, but bring some Disney magic or Disney flair to it. And compared to like what I'm seeing right now, you know, with like Epic Universe, where they're taking not just say the Mario IP or the Dark Universe IP, and they're doing a new spin on it, something that you've never seen before. I just feel like this is something you go to a theme park and expect to see it like a Six Flags or something. I just can't help but feel a little disappointed here.
That's a really good point right there. And I want to go ahead and touch on that really, really badly. But first, Bob has to go. So, Bob, please tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, sorry. I've been told I need to get in there to say the prayer. I've been waiting for that tonight so I'm about ready to do that myself. Guys, you can catch me at Barry. You guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, you're cutting in and out a little bit.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. So thank you so much for letting me be on the show today. I know it was brief, but I wanted to come on and at least participate just a little bit, as well as to say Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. So you can reach me at Barry Place 28. That's where you can find me. I'm on YouTube. I usually do live streams all the time, and we just were at Disneyland yesterday. I am going to be back at Disneyland on Saturday, but I think I'm going to probably be spending time with the family because my daughter's pass expires on Sunday. We've talked about that. So I may try to sneak in a live stream over the weekend. I'll be back on the Park Streamers Hangout on Monday, so please come check out that show. And then I should be back in the park, I think, next Tuesday or Wednesday. But guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for letting me on the show. Joshua, nice meeting you. Erica, always good to see you. Nolan, good to see you. And VashSky, always great to see you too. So happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and to everyone in the chat, happy Thanksgiving. And I will see you guys real soon.
We'll see you all later, good sir. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for contributing today. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you later.
Thank you. Josh, I want to ask you, can the Marvel characters or characters like these be incorporated into these parks successfully at all, do you think?
They can be incorporated, but only in a very limited direction. This also speaks to the fact that when you're looking at a Marvel film, where is it that you actually want to go? Where do you want to physically actually go in the Marvel universe? I think that there's a couple of different places, but all of them are really impractical to build. This is the IP is a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but where's the place that Thor comes from again?
Asgard.
Asgard. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely a place that you would absolutely want to go. You wouldn't want to go on the main streets of any insert urban area here place. When you look at a Marvel film, you're actually looking at it because you enjoy the characters that are there. And character experiences do not scale in a theme park. When you're looking at a character meet and greet, you're looking at something that makes less than 400, possibly 300 people per hour. And that's really what you want to do. Another thing that's a problem with this is that these are inextricably linked to the people who actually play them. I don't want to see anyone that see somebody play Doctor Strange. I want to see Benedict Cumberbatch. That's what I really want to see. I want to see all the Chris's and everything. I don't want to actually see anybody that's just in these little suits and everything. And also, this is a somewhat adolescent to adult property, which means that you can't have that suspension of disbelief. I mean, like when you're looking at somebody and when you're looking at, for example, the walk around version of Star-Lord, I'm like, this is a joke, right? This is just a guy in a Halloween costume that's going around. So you're not really getting that. And yes, you could have the mannerisms and everything down pat, but it's still, there's no suspension of disbelief here. And the thing that I was noticing about first of all, I'm shocked that Bob, totally destroyed my fantasy there. I thought those were going to be real characters. I didn't think that those were actually going to be a screen there. I mean, that those were going to be real AAs, right? Right? No.
That's,
Okay. Jeez.
that's
But it does lead me to think about something, and you might notice this. So with Bruce Vaughan, when he was in charge of Imagineering, and then he went away because of a DEI hire, and then they got rid of her, and then they put him back in again. He is from the R&D department, so everything that he does is very, very rigidly focused on the tech. And if you notice, when this entire conversation that you're going through right now with a lot of Nolan's comments, it's all about, okay, what's going to be the ride system for this? That's not what you should ever be thinking about when you're inside of a theme park. And it's been corrupted so much by the Bruce Vaughns of the world, where you have that. I mean, when you think about going on the Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean, you don't think about, oh, I can't wait to get in the floating bateau and go over there. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go do that. Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, and get in the dune buggy. The dune buggies are great. Awesome. Wonderful. No. You think about, no, I'm literally going inside of this environment, and I'm being totally engrossed and enveloped into these scenarios where I feel like I'm actually experiencing the part of it, and it's not a part of a story. Experience actually trumps story every single time. So when you look at these things, it's just like this is boring to me. Also, and I'm sorry to say this, and I know that I'm going to get a lot of hate from people, Marvel is a dead property now. It was dead after Endgame, and it should be like one of those things where it's just like you're going to need to say goodbye for a couple of years, maybe 10, and then you can go ahead and you can revamp it. It would be something like, and this maybe is a generational thing for me, I would never want to see, I mean, I profoundly love the show Lost, despite all the people that had the detractors for it. I love the show Lost. I would never want to see a season 7, 8, 9, whatever of Lost. I never want to see that. It was a perfectly contained thing. If you want to remake it somehow as a film, that's fine. But I do not want to see the continuation of that. I mean, Endgame, it said it in the title. It's the end of the game. I mean, you've got to let this go for a little while. But this is all hard edges, and it has barely any foliage. There's nothing that actually seems cozy to me. This looks like, like, okay, fine, I'm going to any run-of-the-mill convention center to do what? I mean, this is not something that I want to go on vacation to see. I mean, you can see similar areas like this in any major metropolitan area.
Well said.
I don't disagree with you at all.
Does it remind you of the Back to the Future ride that Universal used to have?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Is that essentially what it is? It's just in another part.
Well, it has such a small square footage that I'm assuming that's what it could be. I mean, I don't think that it's actually going to move around that much.
Well, apparently it's supposed to be using the same technology from the Peter Pan attraction at Fantasy Springs. That's what we have right now. So yeah, but you're right, Joshua. It's a very small footprint, and we're all kind of concerned about how lengthy of an experience this might be if it actually does move, because there's not a lot of space back there, and they're not doing a 2-level building. So how long is this even going to be? There are a lot of open questions about this whole thing, and it's great. It's starting to move, which a lot of people have been waiting for. Get Avengers Campus open in 2021 with an addition of one ride. They consider Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout to be part of it, but we only got one plus ride there, and that was Spider-Man, and a lot of people, were very disappointed in that experience. So to get a couple more attractions, the doubling of this land, it sounds very big and it sounds very promising, but the proof is in the pudding, really. I told you this was Joshua's favorite. Erica, you booking a trip out to see this thing?
Yeah, no. Am I the only one? I feel like I'm the only one in the world that still, to this day, after all these years, Marvel and Disney just do not mix. It's just not Disney. I'm sorry. Call me
Erica,
old.
I already liked you. Now I love you. So there you go.
What?
I said I already liked you. Now I love you. So there you go.
There you go.
Oh, I can't. If I were CEO, I'd be like, just no, we're gonna get rid of all of it. Done. Gosh, I'm sorry. And I'm a typical girl. I'm just not into a lot of this guy stuff, like comic book stuff and superheroes. It's just not my thing. Throw me a good romance.
I'm the same
they
way.
kind
I
of
mean, I'm a
capitalized.
big fan of rom-coms myself. I mean, like Under the Tuscan Sun, something's got to give. Those type of things,
Yeah, that's more me. So yeah, I mean, when me and Raph, honestly, this would be something we would go and visit because we've never seen it, but it's not where we're going to spend a lot of our time. If we go to California, most of our time is going to be spent where, like the older, like actual Disney um, stuff is. That's more what we're interested in. We'll walk around. I don't think we're even going to ride any of the rides back there. Honestly, it's just it doesn't draw us in like that at all. And
And
it's
Well,
kind of the
they
same
could
with
have played that
Universal.
to their advantage because, like with Epic Universe opening up, what if instead of integrating like Marvel or Star Wars or trying to force them, into the naturally built to be a certain way parks? We know like Disney himself was very big on the vibe of a park. He didn't want like a cowboy walking around in the space area or anything like that. What if they use that? It's like, okay,
Mhm.
let's make a whole new gate and just make it a superhero land. Then you wouldn't even just be bogged down by just having to have it be Marvel. Or heck, if there's
Yeah,
anything I've learned
true.
from what you guys were saying here, I'd say I'm up for a rom com ride. Like I'll see a proposal the ride. I'd do it.
I'm
That's
honestly bring me
pretty funny.
Tangled ride. Just an old dark ride, book report, cutesy little that kind of brings me into the story with Tangled. I'd much rather see that come to fruition than any of this.
Yeah. And you
Actually,
shouldn't
Fantasy
have to.
Springs. That's what they delivered. They delivered a Tangled ride, the
Yeah,
first in the
I
world,
gotta go
which
all
is
the way to Japan for that.
And you shouldn't
well,
be forced into these things either. It's like the same reason I don't think they ever should have replaced Tower of Terror at California. That was a great ride, and actually, it's one of the best rides in Disney. Period. Also, Joshua, thank you for your services with that one.
You're most
But I just
graciously welcome, sir.
you just made my insides very happy. My heart is expanding right now. Thank you. But no, like you shouldn't have to be forced onto these changes. It's the same thing with Tiana. It's the same thing with the Cars Land they're trying to add. You shouldn't be forcing people to have to choose to compare brands that never should have been pitted against each other in the first place. It's like when
Yeah,
Winnie the Pooh came in and
exactly.
replaced Mr. Toad. Those two should have never had anything to do with each other. And now we're at situations where it's like, I kind of want to go to Disney, but do I have to see Marvel or see Star Wars? No, you should be able
They
to
could have put
have
Winnie the Pooh across the street and kept
exactly.
Toad.
You should be able to have options. And this should just be elementary here. You shouldn't be like, well, we'll replace something to gain something. Or you could be like that girl who used to be in those taco ads. Why not both? Like, I don't get it.
Exactly. Why not both?
that's great.
Oh,
Oh, the
yeah.
imagery, and I am very, very hungry.
Yeah, if you want to show just for Nolan, and look at my Twitter DM. You can just flash that up if you want to.
Oh, okay, you got it right here. Erica, we'll go ahead and leave the last comment with you. What were we gonna say?
On what? Like
Oh,
ADD over here.
I don't quite remember, as it were. I'm gonna get up right now here,
Are you
Joshua. Hang
hangry
on
right
just
now?
a second.
The hangry kicking in?
Oh no, not hangry at all. I just I don't remember what we were even talking about before this because I'm dealing with so much stuff right now actually happening. My computer's not liking me. Here you go, Nolan. That's
Oh my gosh, dude!
there you go.
I just can't say it because
that your
ride
face
just-
in your costume looks very familiar to me. So I'm gonna say yeah.
I
I'm
probably
sure-
did creep
Last
you out
year
at
you
some
did
point or
that.
another.
Especially back in
Joshua.
what
You're
years
fantastic.
were you? What was it?
I was
Like
there
when?
from 2001 until 2009.
Oh, I would have missed you.
Yeah. Oh
but
yeah. 2001 for sure. Yeah.
You want to make my happiness
Oh,
levels
man.
explode? Talk about Tower of Terror. That's how you do it.
Well, there
the-
is that story about what is it? Ariana Grande and Mariah Carey both participating in a petition.
Well, I know
To-
Mariah Carey. She was in there all the time when I was there. I mean, she was at she went in because it's literally her favorite theme park attraction in the world. She would come all the way down here with her little entourage, and they would go on to Tower of Terror, and then they would ask, "Is just like, hey, can we go on Rocket Roller Coaster?" And she's like, "No, it's not that good. We're leaving now." Like she would actually tell people that, and then she kept on. And the funny thing about it, that this is a little bit blue for probably the channel, but every single time that she would come in, she would wear less and less clothing. And then one time I was actually talking to her, and what was the guy's name that she was with? Nick something or another. What was his name? Nick Cannon, I think it was. Yeah, exactly. I was trying to tell her something procedural, but she wouldn't stop making out with him in order for me to tell her to pull down her safety belt. So,
Little did you know that in All I Want for
so
Christmas
sorry.
Is You, she's referring to the Tower of Terror. It's actually not a boy.
well, it was both of them came out in 1994, so that would make sense. So,
Wow, that's really something right there. That's
The
that's
older I've
interesting. I know.
gotten, I can't go on those elevator rides anymore.
Yeah.
The older I've gotten, I can't do the. I know I used to, and now I can't do it. It makes me kind of nauseated now, so I'm like,
They're intense.
Dramamine. Use
They're absolutely
Dramamine, girl.
intense. Well, we've got one more story, and Nolan wants to go ahead and leave it on something positive. This is about the most positive I have on such short notice right here, but here
Better
you
be
go.
sunshine and rainbows.
Well, Wicked made a whole bunch of money at the box office recently. I don't know if you saw. Crossed $150 million at the global box office after coming on top of industry projections overseas with a $50.2 million 5-day opening over 61 markets, with several major ones yet to join. Again, this was November 24th. Obviously, that will... we'll have to see what the second weekend drop-off is, especially with Moana 2 actually in theaters. Very, very interesting stuff. High scores all around right there, as you can see. Maybe that audience score is a little bit higher than it should be, but it is getting very, very good reviews from the people actually having seen it. A cinema score, so all good things. But I didn't want to focus on just Wicked, though. I want to focus on, well, Disney's foray into the world of the Wizard of Oz, not once, but twice. Joshua, you know where I'm going with this, I'm sure.
oh yeah, I do.
Back in the summer of 1985,
Whoa.
there was a movie coming out, which was Disney's Return to Oz. And yes, folks, there were actually Main Street Electrical Parade floats dealing with the Return to Oz, as you can see in these photos provided by the Oz Archive on Twitter right here. Let's go ahead and play this a little bit. You can see the
so
two
cool.
parts of the float were a mirage of mirrors featuring puppets of the Tin Woodman, TikTok, the head of the Gump, and Jack Pumpkinhead, alongside live actors playing the citizens of Oz and actors playing Dorothy holding Bellina. You can kind of see it pass by right here. Very interesting stuff indeed. And you can see a little bit more of these photos of the specific costumes and so forth, and the electrical parade itself. Very, very interesting. Kind of cool if you're
cool.
into this sort of thing. Historians absolutely get a kick out of this.
That's my friend Michael. That's my friend Michael. I used to work with him at the tower and at the Dream Squad as well. So,
well, there you go. You see, we
the
have
guy on the right. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. We definitely have some connections here. Sadly, the float was only active for a small amount of time during the summer due to poor box office returns for the film. Yeah, it didn't do.
Oh no,
it's
because the film was nightmare fuel. You thought Alien Counter was the scariest thing in the park? Nope.
Even though the Main Street Electrical Parade has been in and out of retirement various times since 1985, the Return to Oz float likely never to return. Yes, it didn't do all that well, but the company didn't exactly give up on it, at least entirely. You can see this right here. This is at Disneyland. This was at Disneyland Paris. Let me go ahead and rephrase that. A Return to Oz section on their version of Storybook Canal Boats. Storybook Lane Canal Boats, which is really, really interesting because, I mean...
Do you know why it's there?
Please, Joshua. Inform us.
Because it's because as part of that, which I cannot pronounce the French name. Normally, I'm good with French on this, but the name escapes me right now. But their storybook land, this is the only American fairy tale, so that's the reason why they put that in there, because it's all fairy tales from around the world.
Ooh.
That's
Okay.
that's an interesting. Okay, I get it now. Well,
Cool.
unfortunately, this wouldn't last for forever.
Oh, come on!
Yep, in 2024, the company announced that they were replacing this scene with Up. Actually, so another American
What?
fairy
Happened.
tale. Yeah, that's what they announced right there, and you can kind of see what it looks like today. So there you go.
I could go to Hobby Lobby, get a dollhouse, and put a bunch of balloons on it and recreate Up. That was actually more unique. And you're telling me that this thing was just such a problem, they had to get rid of it. It barely takes up any space.
Yes.
Why
Again,
not
this
just do
is
the original Oz, Emerald City from the original Wizard of Oz.
Well, that would be awesome, but that's an MGM property, so they wouldn't
There you
own
go.
that.
Right.
And the Return to Oz is a profoundly weird, nightmare-inducing fuel movie. That's I don't like to say this about many films. I will say that like while we should elevate things like Song of the South, we should completely devalue and completely forget the Return to Oz. Also another one that I would add into that is the one and only genuine original Family Band. That is a horrible, horrible movie. But yeah, that's the reason why they would want to do that. Plus, they always want to be relevant about it. Now, what actually still is on the books, technically, it's Euro Disney SCA still. They are now completely controlled by the Walt Disney Company. So, of course, they've got to be in line with the Bobs of the world. So anything that happened during the Iger administration is definitely prime for the chopping block. So, excluding a few properties, they'll keep things like they'll keep a few things like Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid. And Lion King, because people would start to riot if they got rid of those, but literally riot.
Yeah.
But other than those 3 or 4, you can get rid of everything else in the Eisner administration. The second coming of Walt Disney, completely forgotten. So
There you go. That's the one. Well, Iger did try his own hand in dealing with the Wizard of Oz franchise because, as you'll recall, Joshua, Disney did get the rights to the Wizard of Oz books and so forth, and developing IPs for the parks and all that. They tried it again a few years ago with Oz the Great and Powerful, and this 2013. This movie comes out, it dies a dog's death at the box office. It really didn't do all that much, but the company did attempt to promote it to the best of their ability. You can actually see this video playing right here from Mice Chat. This is an Oz the Great and Powerful hot air balloon in the middle between Disneyland and Disney California Adventure. They really did try, folks, to promote this film right here. Wasn't all that successful, and this is actually bad for a couple of reasons. One, because, well, I mean, every box office bomb is bad for the company, but two, Brian Roberts, the CEO of Comcast, and Bob Iger were in negotiation to get back the Marvel rights from Islands of Adventure over to Disney, and the contract that they're in that keeps Disney from actually using the Marvel brand in Florida would be completely upended if that process were to take place, and that those negotiations were taking place shortly after Marvel was acquired by Disney. Well, the real sticking point was they were working on a Wicked film even back then. Comcast was Universal, but Oz the Great and Powerful was about to come out. Brian Roberts wanted this specific film put in the can and never to be released because they felt that, well, if Oz the Great and Powerful comes out, then we're going to have to wait years for our Wicked film to come out. Bob Iger said that was a no-go, and, well, the Marvel rights have been retained ever since there at Universal, and, well, Oz the Great and Powerful, nobody ever remembers it. So another disastrous deal for the Walt Disney Company. Nolan, you were about to say.
Well, I actually would like to change my point here. Vash, Joshua, Erica, we all know quite, a bit about, Disney history and stuff. And please correct me if I'm wrong here. But can you guys think of any story since Bob Iger has taken over as the CEO where there's a story about how Bob Iger wanted this, but he didn't get what he wanted? Aside from, say, Splash Mountain with that fight going on right now. Because, it's like compromise. He's like, hey, we'll have to wait years if that happens. And he's like, oh, no, we need this movie because it's going to be so great for the company. Or, oh, I need to ink this deal. Has there been any time in the past where he's been like, humble and he's like, I don't think I should do this at this time. Or, oh, they don't want to roll with that, so I should probably back off. Can you guys think of any time?
Well, I could think of one that's in the reverse. Remember that he is the only person in the entire world that wanted the Black Panther to happen because everybody else at Marvel is enormously racist, and he was the one that was going to put that in. So I can tell you the reverse, but I can't tell you anything else of that.
Erica?
No, I got nothing.
I know he was. So Bob Iger, this is one of my favorite stories about Bob Iger of all time. He was in the room with the 31 owners of the NFL, and he was pitching the idea of transferring the Rams, which were in St. Louis, to Southern California via, I believe, I can't remember the city in Southern California that he was pitching, but
LA?
It was near Burbank, I believe. And his idea was, okay, we can get the Rams and the Raiders together because the Raiders were over there in Oakland at the time. And it was like, okay, well, they need a new stadium. The St. Louis Rams now going to be the Los Angeles Rams need a new stadium. Let's go ahead and combine both of those and put them in a stadium next to, I believe, Burbank was the city. It wasn't exactly Burbank. It was kind of a adjoining city, but whatever. And Bob Iger starts off this pitch saying, hey, I'm kind of one of the biggest investors in the NFL due to our carriage rates and deals and taking on the NFL product. You really should listen to me when it comes to stuff like this. And he kind of he did it as a joke. Didn't go over that well. Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, afterwards says he didn't give us any money. It was Disney shareholders that gave us money. It was that moment where Bob Iger, being a millionaire, was in the room with billionaires, and that didn't really, that didn't really go down well.
Fish.
And
Exactly,
smarter,
right?
And this
And they
is
went with
very
the other
bizarre to
product.
say because and the intelligence of some of these owners is mind-boggling. But
Yes.
when I say that Bob Iger was probably the dumbest billionaire in that room, that says a lot. That says a lot.
So
Yes.
my brain goes to, what does any of that have to do with Disney?
That's a good question. I have no
You're
idea why he was
out
in
of
there.
your
I have no idea why he was
element,
even.
like, it's got nothing to do
now
with
I just-
entertainment and theme parks. Like, get in your lane and just stay there.
You would think so, yes. You would think that would be the case. You could read about the whole thing on, I believe there's an old archive of ESPN article that went into it in some great depth. It's just fascinating how that whole
I'm
world
tracking
worked.
that down.
But the reason we're talking about Wizard of Oz and specifically for the parks, because, well, now that Wicked has done, very incredibly at the box office, and we'll have to see how it compares against Moana 2, but Universal really does feel that they have a big hit on their hands. What is the chance that we get a Wicked-themed land in a Universal park in the future? They've already done something similar to this on a very small scale at Tokyo. Do you think that this might come to fruition at one point, or is it pie in the sky thinking?
I think it depends on how well the
Universal.
second movie does. Because I know Universal has been pushing hard because don't they have like a whole spot for merchandise within Universal Studios now or at their City Walk?
It's like a big, it almost looks like a complex, but it's not. It's just this really elaborate, kind of like a tribute store, but I don't think it's a tribute. Lorena could talk more about that because she's been to it. I've seen pictures of it, but
It's wild. Let me see if I can.
I think
pull those up.
I think that this would be a prime addition to Epic Universe. I mean, I know that they've only got
I
like 2 or
agree.
3 expansion pads left on there, but then again, that's all that they're ever going to have. So yeah, I think that doing an Oz that could possibly work for them. Like,
I mean, if they could somehow bring, because I'm more the OG Wizard of Oz fan than any of this. Um, it's like you pointed out, Joshua, the environment. It's all about the environment. I never thought about it that way until you put it into perspective. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I could really care less what the IP is at a theme park. It's the environment that draws us in when we're there. And I think they could pull it off, considering what we're seeing come to fruition with everything else. I think it'd be cool. I mean, give me the little munchkin town, the cute little munchkins and the little mushroom houses or whatever. Oh, I'm there. That's my
Oh.
favorite spot. That'd be my happy place.
Erica, can I suggest maybe an alternative if we can't have the OG? Can we have the 1978 classic, The Wiz, with Michael Jackson as a land instead?
oh,
Oh,
no.
God.
oh my!
I don't even know what that is. I
you
have never even heard of that.
You have to look this
What
up.
year was that?
You
Did you say
gotta look this up.
1978?
Yes.
Oh,
I mean, I'm old, but I'm not that old, dude.
You got it. Okay, so it feels like a fever dream. So the same person who Joel Schumacher, who directed Batman and Robin, directed
Okay.
The Wiz, starring Michael Jackson, and who was playing Dorothy at the time? Do you remember?
I can't remember, but I know that Diana Ross was the Good Witch, I believe, wasn't she? Diana
no,
Ross
she was
did
Dorothy.
something in there.
Diana Ross was Dorothy.
Okay, so yeah, she was Dorothy. Yeah, yeah.
But she was a little old for that role right there. Michael Jackson's the Scarecrow. Nipsey Russell as the Tin Man. Lena Horne as Glinda. Richard Pryor was in that. It was.
He was the wizard himself.
It was wild. Just as crazy. Anyway, yes, multiple attempts have been made to bring the Wizard of Oz films and so forth and related items to fruition. You can see this right here. What we have on screen is that Wicked themed store or complex that Erica was pointing out right here. It is absolutely fascinating. I think we should end though, Joshua. There was a place where the Munchkins lived, right? There was a place where the town that Dorothy saw when stepping out from her house that had been swept up in a tornado.
It
What she
seems
saw
like
there-
really familiar to me. I'm not. Give me just a moment. I'm going to be able to figure this out in just a second for you. Just give me 1 second here. Let me see here now. If you'll go ahead and post this on the screen for me, please.
Yep, you got it.
So
Let me go ahead and get you there. Give me a second. Oh, wow. Okay. You're going to love this, guys. It's going to take you back.
Oh,
Here we go.
why is I get a feeling I might know what it is. Maybe not.
The Great Movie Ride.
I was gonna say it has to be the Great Movie Ride.
The Great Movie
Awesome.
Ride. Yes. Oh, man. That was the
I
place.
love that part with the
Yes.
witch and
Yeah.
Munchkin Land.
we always called her
loved
Margaret
it.
Hamilton. We never called her the witch as cast members.
Oh.
So yeah, they were always like, we actually always called them by their actor name, like all the animatronics. It was never whatever character that they were playing. So actually, that's a place that has such strong emotional ties to me. I mean, like Tower of Terror is a
I
very
love
personal thing
that.
for me.
Oh.
That one's a very
When
prominent
you
one as well.
want to get out of the ride vehicle and just walk around, because I wanted to do that. She's like, can I just walk around and just enjoy the environment? I want to be Dorothy for a second here and just, walk on the freaking Yellow Brick Road, even though it's only like, what, 3 feet long? Like, whatever.
Yellow
They have
brick
parties
sidewalk
here,
at this
too.
point.
Well, actually, if you don't mind being completely blind, you can actually experience. I just sent you the link. The entire soundtrack to the Great Movie Ride. I actually produced that. That's actually one of my things that I'm mostly known for. Is I'm a soundtrack producer as well. I've done over 40 albums by now. Even though I'm a historian and a designer, one way or the other. But this is a 2.5-hour experience for the entire attraction. It has the I actually had to do a lot of political work in order to get all of the source sounds for it. I actually worked on this the political angle for like 7 years. It took me about like 5 or 6 months to entirely do it, and I was actually able to get 10, including myself, former Great Movie Ride hosts to reprise their roles for the attraction. So,
cool.
There's a different voice in every single scene, and it also has a fully instrumental Great Movie Suite, which is which is about a 30-minute experience on there as well. And you can actually, if you scroll down, you can actually look at the you can go ahead and you can actually listen to each person's individual performance by themselves on there as well. And I have the Turner Classic Movies thing on there as well for it. And one of the things that I really love about it is, first of all, the entire attraction was arranged / composed by my dear friend George Wilkins, who had just recently passed away. He was 90 years old. He did like almost all of Epcot's music, Epcot Future World music. He did Sunny Eclipse. He did the Star Tunnel over at Space Mountain. Tons of stuff there. And one of the stories that I have with that is that when they were trying to do, when they were doing the Singing in the Rain segment of the Great Movie Ride, they really wanted Gene Kelly to reprise his singing because the recording that they had wasn't so hot. Because they reorchestrated the actual music for it, but they needed him to do it. Well, by that time he was way too old and his voice was way too raspy to actually perform that. So they had to use the old recording. Well, I knew that when I was going into this process. And so what I did is, through the miracle of AI, I was actually able to take the original source master from Singing in the Rain, as well as for Mary Poppins and a couple other ones, and actually clean up the isolated voice from the original soundtrack and then remarry that with George's arrangement of Singing in the Rain on there, so you can actually hear it on there. So it's actually, this soundtrack is actually significantly better than what you ever heard inside of the attraction.
So cool. This is
Wow.
absolutely stunning work here, Joshua. You've been doing some amazing, fantastic stuff, not only in photo restoration, but also in this realm right here. You know, getting the source audio for these attractions or ambient music and so forth, restoring them and providing them so that people can listen to them. Amazing stuff. I know I have Joshua's version of the Disneyland Christmas music loop on Main Street there. It's just absolutely fantastic stuff. Love it all. You can check out E82, the Epcot Legacy website. Actually, I provided the link to this specific page in the chat right here. Also, too, you can find Joshua Harris for all of his amazing insights on Twitter or X as well. That link is also posted there. Thank you so much, Joshua, for joining us for the show here. Nolan, where can the people find you at home, good sir?
Well, you can find me on my YouTube channel at Nolan Thunder. I do little documentaries on internet and video game mysteries, everything from lost media to old urban legends you might have seen on the forums in the past. And I do like a documentary style, kind of like Beyond Belief Fact or Fiction with Jonathan Frakes back in the day. I have a little deep dive. It's presented as a little mixture of documentary, B-movie horror, and comedy elements. If that sounds like something that appeals to you, please check it out. It has a cool little synthesizer 80s type soundtrack. So if you like that sort of thing, please check me out there. And I just want to say also, I hope everyone's had a great Thanksgiving. It's been a big honor to be on the show today with Vash, Erica, and Joshua. Finally getting to meet him. It's been awesome to meet you, sir. And I hope everyone has had a good excuse me, good day, and I hope there's a bright future ahead for everyone here. And I hope your week is marvelous.
Absolutely. Erica, thank you so much for being a great sport today and coming on the show. I know it was a big ask, so thank you so much. You add so much to it every single time you actually come on. Very much appreciated. Where can the people find you? And I believe somebody asked in the chat what you are doing to celebrate Thanksgiving in Germany. Please go ahead.
Well, we cooked. It was just me, Raph, and Christian. We made a turkey and a ham and all the fixins, and it was just the three of us. My dad's really sick, so we really couldn't do the Zoom Skype type thing. Yeah, the family's kind of just Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's not Thanksgiving in Germany, but I didn't want brats or schnitzel. So we can't really go out to eat, so we have to cook. So we got leftovers for like about a week because I don't know how to portion down a Thanksgiving meal. So that was quite interesting, but we're used to it. We usually get together with friends. That's usually what military do. We kind of form our own little nucleuses of military family, and we'll do holidays together. But most of our friends have already moved to the US, so we're kind of loners this year. But that's pretty much the picture. But speak of that, you can find us at Hanging with Erica and Raph. We've got some Christmas videos in the pipeline. I have yet to start editing the Fantasialand video. But I got the first one up not even a week ago on Christmas decorations, what that traditionally looks like out here. And the Christmas markets have already started, and Raph has off next week. So we will be going to maybe 1 or 2 Christmas markets, and we'll have 2 more videos in the pipeline on that good stuff. So that's pretty much it. I mean, as far as commenting on it, we don't do live streams like this. Not yet. We're newborns to YouTube, so we're really feeling things out, trying to figure out what our niche is going to be in the long run. So things might be all over the place in terms of content, but for stuff like this, you can find me like at the Spice Lounge on Lorena Creole. I love her and her channel and her community. So if you're not subscribed to her, highly recommend. She calls it like she sees it, and I just love her for it. And then there's Pro's channel, WW Pro. You can find me there on occasion and over here on occasion, and follow the Bradley's Fun on Ron's channel on occasion there too. So that's pretty much my hobby. That's what I've been doing lately.
Absolutely, 100%. And Lorena, her channel is also in the chat as well. There's a whole bunch of links there that are hopefully clearly labeled, so you can go ahead and find them. By the way, somebody sent in a super chat way long ago, and I completely forgot about it. I am so sorry. I just, when you have Joshua Harris on, when you have Eric on, when you have Nolan on, you just get enraptured in the conversation, and you just, it just leaves your brain there. So I very much do apologize, guys. For $5, thank you so much, Paul. Very much appreciate it. Ron, I worked at Hollywood for 9 years. I still call inclusion courtesy 2.0. I'm at Animal Kingdom these days. I wonder if I ever ran into you there. That was for Ron. I'll go ahead and get it over to him. I have his contact information, so I'll go ahead and get an answer for you on this one. I think this will be kind of fun here. By the way, if you haven't yet subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We are it's all only possible because of you. And if you like Nolan, if you like Erica, if you like Joshua Harris, please go ahead and support them with the links provided there. If you haven't yet hit the like button, please hit the like button. Very much appreciate that. Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you on T3PO, by the way, might be rescheduled a little bit because I am traveling, actually going to California on Saturday, and then I might be going to Disneyland on Sunday. Going to be very, very interesting. I haven't been back for a while, so that's going to be really cool. So because of that, we might have to move around sometimes. You will be updated via this channel and on Twitter. So please, if you haven't yet hit that bell notification for updates, go ahead and hit that bell notification. Follow us on Twitter, where you can learn all about our upcoming shows and productions. Thank you so much for joining us here on this amazing Thanksgiving night. I know it's like I said, a big ask for you. I hope you and your families are very much doing well. Erica, that includes you. Joshua, that includes you. Nolan, that includes you. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you and all of you at home. Thank you so much. Everybody, have a wonderful night.